All right, so in the studio today, I got two of the homies, got Ryan Sanderson and Adam Bailey, the boys from AME. If you don't know these guys, that's all right, because they're kind of behind the scenes players in this whole thing that we have going on in the Supercross world in Australia. So these boys put on the Aus-X Open Sydney event and then Auckland, and we've been trying to get this podcast together for a while, and I'm super stoked that we've finally made it happen, boys. So welcome into our little dungeon.
Yeah, thanks Jace.
Stoked to be here.
So we definitely go like a long way back, and it's really cool to see where you guys have come now with the Supercross, because I think and you definitely would know this, like as soon as the new Supercross series come into Australia, it was like the whole thing in the industry or with the fans was like, oh, how long is this gonna last? And I think this is the first time in a really long time that isn't being said, and I think that's a credit to the way you boys have run for the last 4 years in Sydney, and then with Auckland last year, and then now expanding to Melbourne. So as a fan and not just a friend, I'm excited to say that like that whole like how long is this going to last, just that seems to have gone away finally.
Yeah, and that's awesome to hear, because for us, obviously, you know, when you're so passionate about something and you're working, you know, long hours as is a whole team, and we are putting our heart and soul into it, the last thing you want to hear is negativity or things like that. So, I mean, we're the biggest Supercross fans there is as well. You know, we've been around it for a long time. You know, I grew up, you know, being a fan and then as a racer. And
Did you race some Supercrosses too, right?
Yeah, for quite a lot of years. Tried to. I mean, I wasn't the most successful, but broke plenty of bones and learnt plenty of tough lessons. But
I feel like if you've got a number in your Instagram handle still, like that's the proof that
not
you're
giving
hard.
it up.
That's the proof that you're hardcore.
Hanging on. Yeah, hanging on to something.
Oh, that's so good.
Nah, I mean, you know, I distinctly remember watching Supercross Masters, you know, 95 or 6 or something, and saying one day I'm going to race this is going to be sick, and you know, did it for a number of years and was lucky enough to travel around the countryside as a battler and the high ace fan. You know how all that goes, and yeah, loved the time with my friends, and remember that passion and that joy to be involved in racing those races. Like, I never won main events and had great success at it, but I really genuinely loved being involved and loved racing and loved that feeling, like when the lights went out at the start and the energy picked up and the crowd were making noise and stuff. That still gives me tingles now. And when we took on this project, that was something that we felt was really missing. Like, that's something that was missing from the sport, and there wasn't that sort of energy and that excitement, and riders weren't pumped to be involved, you know, like those days, like I remember, and that's what we're really trying to build back. And ultimately it's about that positivity and getting everyone on the journey, you know. So
how did it come? Because I was in the States when everything really started happening, and then I missed the first 3 years of it. Like, it just never lined up that I was home. So how did the whole thing come together for you guys to even start promoting the first Aus-X Open?
Yeah, I mean, back then we and our agency AME is a sponsorship, sports marketing and content and PR agency first and foremost. So back then we were working with Carlton Dry, who was a sponsor of motocross and supercross teams. So we were working with them and helping them manage their sponsorship of the MX Nationals at the time, and became really close with them. And they asked us actually to pitch an idea for a major event concept.
Oh, really?
Yeah. So they came to us and said, we want to do our own event like the Red Bull X Fighters, because, you know, we spend so much on sponsorship. If we owned our own event, it would be sick. What do you think we should do? And they actually paid us to come up with a concept, which we, Sando and I went to the Bercy event in Paris, because I'd known that for a long period of time and watched it over the years as a fan. And I said and at that stage there was no indoor supercrosses going around in Australia. I said to Sando, we've got to go check out Paris. It's a sick event. Let's suss it out and see what we can learn, you know. And that's really what happened. And we pitched in the Aus-X Open which was a combination of that with bringing in freestyle motocross, which at that time as well, there was no best trick in X Games because it had been cancelled. So,
yeah, that's right.
So we said, let's bring in freestyle motocross best trick. Let's bring in, all the best Supercross riders from around the world, and we'll run that, and that'll be our pitch to them, which we did, and they loved it. But the gentleman that was sort of leading that discussion got promoted out of his role at Carlton Dry, and eventually, long story short, over a couple of years, it lost steam. And they
so when was this, like, time period wise?
That was like 13, 14.
Yeah, so that far back ago.
Yeah, so we seek sort of advice on what we should do, because we were obviously disappointed that it didn't happen. Over sort of 18 months, I think it was. And then we ended up getting investment and an investor to obviously do the event ourselves, which was obviously a massive step for both of us. But I think from my side as well, seeing Bercy and seeing its success and seeing it being around for 30 odd years and just being blown away by the quality of that event and the feel and the entertainment, everything they had going crazy, for it, for me really sold in, Supercross at that level is incredible, and the sport deserves to be there. The athletes deserve to be there, but obviously it's about, building all the entertainment around it and getting everything together, and certainly indoor creates that atmosphere that is truly special and something you can't necessarily replicate in an open air stadium.
Yeah, no, definitely. And like you, I think you guys have the understanding, and anyone that goes to America and they like go to Anaheim one, and it's like, it's all about the rider intro, opening ceremonies, and it's about the fireworks, and it's about like that whole 20 minutes before the first gate drop. That's sort of like what makes the event, and that was probably the most neglected part of every Australian Supercross race ever. So I think was that like a big part of the philosophy that you guys like, okay, we need to, because the thing is, like, you just, in my opinion, you can't just sell to race fans. Like, there's not enough hardcore motocross dudes that know exactly who's on the line for that first heat. Like 50,000 sold out Anaheim Stadium, like how many of them are like hardcore fans that really know what's going on? So it's like, did you guys like having that insight, is that sort of the angle then that you worked from when you set out to create this event?
Yeah, 100%. I guess entertainment is driving emotion, and that goes back to, that sort of your hair standing up on your arms and that real energy, and that is really what was missing. So was our biggest focus, and still is really, is how do you get people so passionate and so into it that they're bubbling, with excitement, they're that pumped that they just can't wait. And those US events do have that, because there's that anticipation, and they do have the fireworks and those things. But we sort of combined what they're doing with like a Nitro Circus intro to begin with, when they were indoor stadiums and small, and a lot of music and a lot of pyro and a lot of energy, so that by the time the racing starts, people are so amped.
They're already stoked.
Yeah. And then we've done a fair bit with adjusting the formats, but also adding extra elements, obviously the junior racing, but celebrity race was the first thing we did last year, which we're doing again this year. Freestyle motocross, the international showdown, just trying to really mix up the entertainment and broaden the appeal, not only obviously for the fans, but also for the broader families and the mums and dads, and even, your girlfriend and your mates that maybe don't know anything about it, that can come along and just be entertained throughout, 4 hours, obviously, which is the length of the show. And then build on that pit party activation outside and try and continue to deliver extra value wherever we can for friends and families and all ages effectively outside, and all ticket holders getting access to some really cool stuff outside the venue.
That was the thing that I think I messaged both of you guys after Sydney, because like I said, that was the first time I'd gone, and I took my girlfriend, and she'd never been to a Supercross race in a stadium. She'd only been to like Jimboomba and Coolum and stuff like that. And she was just like, holy fuck, this is like way different. So for her, she sat through the whole thing, was just like pumped. And I think that is like, for me, like, I know I could go and race and just watch heats, just watch every lap of practice, and I could be fully entertained by just like exactly what is going on. Like, I know Chad's doing this, I know Ando's doing this, I know that Dino did this line that nobody else did. But it's like my chick doesn't know that shit, so it's like she can't get the same level of excitement. So it's like it is super necessary to like cater to it's almost more important to cater to like the wives and kids or whatever than it is to like the hardcore dude, because they're going to be happy either way, right?
Well, yeah,
totally.
And it's how you justify going every year, you know, because you want to enjoy those events with your missus and with your friends or your family, because otherwise, you know, you're just doing it by yourself or doing it with just a couple of your mates, you know, which is fine too. And we certainly have, you know, a big focus for a lot of mates and a lot of boys and moto guys that travel. You know, we've got families and clubs, you know, and people traveling from all over Australia that are really into Supercross and motocross, but broadening that appeal and then bringing their friends and bringing other people not used to the sport, and then seeing the event and sort of falling in love with the sport is the ultimate, right? To build these events to be larger audiences and grow the appeal and broaden the awareness and, you know, everything we're trying to do from a TV perspective as well to really get this sport out there, you know, which is, you know, something we've obviously got a lot of guidance from Tony Cochran on, and something he just did so amazingly with supercars and built that sport, you know, from nothing into, you know, top like 3 sports in Australia, one of the best TV deals live on Channel 7 back when he was, you know, doing the TV broadcast deals and put that sport, you know, on the map. You know, had Pink as an ambassador one year, you know, he invented Rock and Race and the concerts being at the events and did all of those things that blew events up to 150,000, 200,000 attendees, you know, events all over the country, which is something that obviously we feel this sport deserves to be right up there. And there's no one more passionate in motocross than Adam Bailey, and certainly from my perspective, which isn't motocross, like I'm a complete convert, so I fully feel converted and feel like I can sort of speak to the people that can be converted, if that makes sense. And that's my focus, I guess. Yeah,
and I think that's what's great about our partnership is that I grew up in it and I love it, and like I'm like you, like I'll watch every lap of practice and I'll froth it no matter what. Like it can be in a paddock and I'll still love it. Yeah,
exactly.
But you've also got to remove that emotional connection, you know, to create a business or to have something that appeals to the masses. You've got to remove that and look at it from a kid's perspective and as the entertainment package. And I think that some of the biggest compliments we've had aren't from, you know, guys like us that are going, that was sick. It's like 50 plus year old women going, I had the best night. That was great. And you know, you're like, what? You actually really enjoyed that? And they loved it. And we've had a lot of that and a lot of surprises where people that you wouldn't think as Supercross fans are enjoying it. And that to us means we're doing our job, because hopefully the more of those talk about it. Like we had TV execs come and bring their kids and be like, we had the best night. That was great. Thanks. You know, and we're just like, if we can keep doing that, then that's how the thing grows. We can keep spreading the word. And it's not, we've probably got too locked up in trying to talk to ourselves rather than how do we expand by talking to people that have never seen it. And they may never race a dirt bike ever, but they can still love it as an entertainment and come along and have a really time.
Like the monster truck, I'm never going to own a monster truck in my life.
But
like they seem to be making monster truck events all the time.
Exactly. Yeah, I think that's probably the distinction, is going, whether you're into motorbikes or not, you can come along, you'll have a sick time. And that's how we've tried to sell it to corporates and people that you know wouldn't normally be interested, but like, it's comfortable, it's indoors, your feet won't touch the dirt unless you want them to, you know, like, and therefore it's easy to have a good time. It doesn't matter what you're into, kind of thing.
And it's like a novelty thing too. Like the thing is that with, you know, there's hundreds of football games that go on every single year. There's like hundreds of soccer games. There's a bunch of like it is like such a flagship marquee one-off event as well, which I think will help in terms of like the non-moto kind of people. It's like, here's an event that doesn't come around very often. It's in the best stadium in Australia this year with Marvel Stadium. So it's like, I think that too is like another thing going for it, is it's not like this flogged out same thing that like Australia's just seen over and over.
Yeah, 100%. You're seeing the world's best in action, which is for sporting, you know, enthusiasts and general sporting people that just like entertainment. That's what they're going, you know, like Real Madrid come and play at the MCG and they'll sell 80,000+ tickets because people want to see the world's best, and not necessarily always soccer fans, you know, but we can appreciate the very best in the world at what they do. And I think our sport's very unique in the sense that Supercross is in the venue. You can see everything. And what I love about it is you can watch your favourite rider and you can watch him the whole time and you don't lose sight of him. You know, where supercars, you can't do that, and you can't necessarily visually see the best line that Scott McLaughlin's taking in supercars and see how he's beating everyone else. You know what I mean? You just, you know, he's maybe doing something right, but you can't visually see it. And if you're at the event in a grandstand, you see him doing one corner, you know, and you're watching the rest on a TV. In Supercross, you can literally watch your favourite rider the whole time and see exactly what he's doing. And that is pretty unique and special. And to do it in the comfort of a, you know, multi-million-dollar facility like Marvel Stadium, there's nothing better. And that stadium is just incredible.
So we'll backtrack a little bit. So leading up to like getting that first event going in Sydney, so we sort of like we went off on a bit of a tangent, but to come back to that, so like what was the sort of steps then to sort of make sure that first one happened?
The first one was government support for us. We really needed that, and Destination New South Wales, we laughed about it not long ago because what we presented to them was terrible in comparison to what we have now, because we had no collateral, we had no pictures, we had no video. We just went in with literally a PowerPoint presentation to the head acquisitions guy at Destination New South Wales.
Fake it till you make it.
And just said, this is what we want to do. We want to bring, it's going to be the biggest event that has ever been in Australia, you know, and he believed in it. Which was amazing. And without that literally wouldn't have happened.
We'd presented a lot on action sports success overseas, and obviously in America and X Games, and obviously Nitro Circus and the demographics. And we hoped that we would appeal to younger audiences. Had we known now that we'd have some of the strongest younger audience following in Australian sport, you know, no, we didn't. But to back that up in the end, it was quite amazing. And Steve Keogh at DNSW was a visionary, really, and then supported us for the whole 4 years we were there, which was, you know, amazing. We're very grateful.
So how long did you guys spend in the lead up to like get that first one going? Like how long was this a project in the works for?
2013.
Yeah, 20 years. So a good 2 years before the first one actually happened. So it was good. It's good 2 years of planning, and it's the same with Marvel Stadium, to be honest, now and Auckland. Like they've been an 18-month to 2 year, you know, process.
Yeah.
You know, we keep everything really quiet until it's a done deal.
Yeah.
And we're not ones that like to talk about everything until we know it's going to happen. And so, you know, it was pretty hard. You know, people were shooting things at us about going to Marvel Stadium. Why wouldn't you go there? But we'd been working on it for a year at that point, and people were still saying, why aren't you going there? It's like, well, until it's a done deal, we won't say anything.
Yeah.
So it is a long process.
And, you know, the complexities with that event and underpinning, you know, 6,000 tonnes of dirt is not an easy feat. Like it's never been done there before. And the costs associated and the potential risk of damaging all of the turf in Marvel Stadium, you're talking over $1 million just in those two things alone. So for us, it's been a long time to build up to the belief that we could do that. And hold an event that could do that. That's
what I was like. That's kind of the mind-blowing thing. And like I've known you for a long time. Like you're the kind of dude that's like always made shit happen. And I always remember like when I was like 18, 19, like I always would look at you as a guy that you always seemed more professional than you needed to be, if that made sense. Like in moto, like, because I feel like everyone that was kind of in the scene and doing their thing, like they were, I don't know, that just seemed like they wanted to be fit in more than they wanted to like just button up a shirt and sort of have that sort of vibe. And to me, you always had that vibe more than anyone else. And when this whole ball started rolling, like I could really see that. I was like, Bailey's the kind of dude that could pull this off, because that was how you'd always acted, if that makes sense. But I mean, there had to be like mad doubt that you guys could actually pull this thing off. And I'm sure that, you know, like you said, you had an investor, but like if the whole Sydney thing goes tits up that first year, like you guys are in like fucking big trouble, I'm guessing, you know.
Yeah, and there's been multiple, you know, times and conversations, and it is stressful and it is intense, and I think, and I appreciate what you said, but I think, you know, for me, probably I would say that my strength is noticing my weaknesses, and this guy makes up for those in so many more ways than that. So that's why we're such a great team, is because I have strengths and experience in certain areas. He brought in an amazing amount of experience from Supercars, working there in sponsorship for 5 years, and knew that world inside and out. So we were really able to come together and learn what they had done so well in Supercars, what worked there, with my experience in Supercross, and then that's how we've really married a lot of that together.
Yeah, and I think, deep down that belief we have in the sport, and again, revert back to seeing Bercy, like we just knew that it was possible.
Yeah.
And we saw that and just thought, in Australia, they're following, obviously, for the sport. Maybe Supercross probably doesn't even sit in the top 40, sports in Australia, right? But there's still enough following, and we've seen that. And I think from our perspective, we couldn't be any more grateful for the fans showing their appreciation. Yeah. I mean, some of those years in Sydney, we had 45% of people coming from outside New South Wales travelling to the event. And if they hadn't have done that and spent...
Dude, I got friends from Cairns that went every year.
Crazy, man. The money that people were spending to go to Aus-X Open, if they hadn't have done that, we wouldn't be here today. And we, who knows what we'd be doing. But it would have been a real shame, because the sport deserves it, and the fans have been speaking for the last 4 years, and Melbourne even more again. Like we couldn't be any more grateful for just their support so far out from the event as well. They really get behind it, and they probably don't realise how much that helps for us, but it means how much we can budget and spend on the events and make sure that we can bring out the very best in the world out here. And it gives us the confidence that we can spend on all the production, everything that we spend. That equates to, for Melbourne, over $3 million of expenditure. To have that confidence from the initial sales and from the support of the passionate, real hardcore supporters is basically what allows us to have that confidence each year to do it and go again.
And I think the very first Aus-X Open solidified that belief that there is the passion out there, because it's a scary thing, and you go on sale for the first day and the first time, and we didn't know what to expect or what was going to happen, and we had to start in that stadium because it's a lot smaller. It's a 16,000 person stadium, not a 45,000 in the capacity we're in now. So we had to start there to test, because we didn't know what was going to happen. And Kudos Bank Arena didn't actually know that they wanted us at all. We had to fight for a good year to get a contract there, because they thought Supercross was going to be a massive failure.
Really?
And yeah. They wouldn't allow us to pay them stupid amount of money and hire the venue because they thought it will fail. And
so you're often to overpay and be like, wait, we'll pay you the money. Just let us do it.
Particularly the first year. It was more, I mean, most of these venues, that you're talking about, obviously all these established sports going there in most cases, but in Kudos Bank, the amount of concerts and exhibitions and events there, it's one of the most used venues in the country. And for them to take a risk on someone like us and young guys, with the PowerPoint presentation, so to speak, to where we are now, we owe a lot to those fans that spoke so quickly, because we could have always cancelled too, or refunded everyone and pulled the pin if it wasn't going to work. Was sort of our methodology or thinking, but we needed to obviously get to a point where it was going to work, which it did. The first 10 days was incredible.
Were you guys sitting there watching the refreshing browsers and shit?
It's pretty funny actually, because the very first pre-sale day in Sydney, we sold 700 tickets. And we didn't know if that was good or bad. And the dude from the arena called and goes, "You guys must be stoked." And we're like, "I don't know. Are we? Should we be? I don't know. Is that good? Are we okay now or what?" And he was like, "Yeah, guys, that's cool. That's great. 700 tickets in a day. That's awesome." And we're like, "Oh, sweet, cool. Thanks for letting us know," because we had no idea. Because
we ended up selling Saturday out, I think, in 2 weeks or 10 days effectively, when we made the call that we were going to do potentially a second night, because we were prepared to lose money year one, do one night only, but at a loss. And it was only that we were able to do that second day that it became sort of cost neutral effectively that first year.
But I think that's one of the things that people don't realise is the challenge with those venues is one of the years in Kudos Arena, we had Drake in the lead up to us. Drake can bump in and out in hours. We take days. They had 2 nights or 3 nights of sellout Drake. Then we came in for 3 or 4 days for the whole movement of dirt and everything is incredibly. So
do you guys have to pay for the dirt to move in and out? In terms of renting the stadium?
You're hiring the venue.
You hire the venue and it is blank. It doesn't have the sound system. It doesn't have the lighting. It clearly doesn't have dirt.
Power.
It doesn't. You pay for the power. You pay for the security. You pay for everything. You pay for the internet usage. So it's it's massive. But what I was getting at is that the concerts can come in and out overnight. And literally that year they had Drake for 3 days sold out. We came and did our event, then Drake came in the next day. We bumped in from 6 a.m. They were out at 5 a.m. You know, like it's that close. Yeah. And so from a venue's perspective, they're not that into us really. They're kind of like, Supercross, you're going to take 4 days. You're going to bring in all this dirt. You're going to put dust everywhere. Yeah. We can have Drake, like, you know, at Marvel Stadium this year, they got U2 before us, Metallica, UFC. These things, UFC. They're selling out all this stuff at just ridiculous. And so therefore there's no love for us. They don't giving us discounts. They like us. They're not
trying to see. They don't really care either way.
No. So that's why we're, you know, with a calendar and trying to make, you know, coordinate a championship, for example, or, you know, like, it's really tough because you're fighting against, you know, Live Nation that are the biggest promoter in the world, and they want this date.
They're like a mafia too, pretty much. Yeah. Like, it's like full
and
on.
If they want November 30 and you've announced your calendar and told everyone your venues, your date's November 30, if they want November 30, I'm really sorry to tell you, mate, you're moving. Like, there's no, you know, like, we just don't, it's just us. We don't have the power that they do. So it's been a real constant juggle, you know, to try and get any credibility, and also just that is a really challenging part of it when you're trying to move into premium venues like that.
Yeah, it took a long time even to convince Marvel Stadium to take us on. They're not, you know, having to take the risk, but to have us in there. I mean, it's owned by the AFL, and obviously, you know, just the turf alone and the risk of the damage and everything that we could do to that turf. You know, even convincing them to allow us to be there has been very difficult. But, you know, they've been amazing, you know, since we've done that deal and working with them now. But it took, 18 months of convincing, you know.
Yeah, we talk about it like it's trying to force a chick that doesn't even like you to marry you. Like, it's like you're dragging her down the altar going, let's do this. It's going to be epic. Like, this is sick. Like, we'll have a great time, but she's just like, I'm not keen, I'm not into you. And that is literally what it's like, because, you know, we're badgering them. We need this contract, we need this date. It has to, you know, let us, you know, bring 6,000 tonne of dirt onto Marvel Stadium that it can't even hold the weight. The floor can't support the weight of the machinery in the dirt. So we have to support it underneath with thousands of props, acro props. So that, and we had to justify to them, we can do it. Like, the machine won't fall through the floor. We won't destroy the turf. We, you know, like, they're kind of like, guys.
And they're like, bro, we don't care.
Yeah, we don't care.
Well, if we didn't have Tony Cochran as well, speaking with the CEOs of these venues and speaking with the boards of directors for the venues as well, both Sydney and Melbourne, we wouldn't be there.
So how did getting Tony on board, so did you used to work with him?
I worked under him at Supercross for like 5 years. So once we'd done Aus-X Open year one, we wanted to obviously build on it and start to believe in building the sport rather than just this one-off event. So we approached him about like consulting to us, and it was interesting because obviously he hadn't met Adam and I hadn't really spoken to him much because he left Supercars, and as had I in 2012. So there was 7 years there's been 7 years of us doing AME, but quite a few years before Tony and I sort of caught up, and obviously he met Adam. So we sort of presented what we were doing. He had no idea really about the events or the sport. And in the end, basically he suggested, what about if I became your chairman, and this is my sort of, you know, commercial terms, you know, would you accept? And we were pretty blown away. And then we convinced him to come to Sydney for the first time and convinced him to bring his son. And his son wasn't going to come. He wanted to work at McDonald's and had no interest. And we took his son along because we knew that would help convert Tony as well, for him to see the impact on his son and the you know, the importance we're placing on attracting those kids and the future, you know.
And that was an example of a kid that he had no interest in dirt bikes whatsoever.
How old was he?
14.
Yeah, he was,
14, but he left with like every rider's signature saying this was awesome, had the best time. And so then Tony after that was like, and also Tony could see that it was legit, and then he watched it and was like, fuck, this is unbelievable. And it solidified to us obviously what we already thought from entertainment sport, and he's there's no one better in the world in our opinion to advise on this kind of thing.
So that was mid 17 and he came to the 17 Aus-X Open and been with us since that.
So
because he's a legit gangster. Like me and Mick were just talking before you guys got in, Mick, because I met him when we did the filming for you guys the other day, but like the stuff that he's done, like Frank Sinatra and like all these crazy people that he's brought out, and then the V8 supercars, he knows his shit.
He used to manage Barry Sheen. Like he's got incredible stories, and like for us, like we laugh I mean, he's the best in the world at this for sure, in our opinion. But man, he doesn't hold back. Like he has fucking ripped us that many times. He's like, are you guys fucking joking? Like I remember we sent him a presentation once to see what he thought, and it was just like in capitals, is this a fucking joke? Question mark, exclamation marks all the way through. Fuck. You know? And we're like, oh shit, I don't think he liked that one.
Yeah, but we're not hiring him to pat our backs.
Exactly.
And he's never been one like that, you know, ever since I've worked for him. But he's an unbelievable visionary, and you know, he brought Pink to Supercars, which was just, it copped so much criticism. And if she hadn't have got pregnant year 2, she was going to perform at Sydney V8s. Like, could you imagine what that would have done to broaden the appeal for Supercars? You know what I mean? Like he put those drivers in a commercial with Pink, and rightly or wrongly, everyone's opinion can obviously be valued on that, whether that's the right move. But you know, we're talking events like the Sydney 500 that he introduced, and Adelaide 500, Bathurst 1000 that he blew up. You know,
just insanity.
Yeah,
like,
you know, like incredible.
Created it.
Yeah, like it's insane. Those events, Gold Coast, you know, Indy 500 into Gold Coast 600, and the concerts and some of those sellout venues that they've had is just insane. And we obviously are focusing on doing the same as Supercross from that entertainment perspective, but Tony didn't care about the fucking cars. He didn't care about what brakes or engines or what they had. You know what I mean? I mean, he wanted V8s and he wanted that authenticity, but he wasn't worrying about how much they spent, you know, on new disc brakes or what, you know, necessarily what tires they raced on, unless it meant it was entertaining for the fans. You know, that's all he cared about. And I think, you know, that's definitely been lost at times with Supercars and F1, and I'm sure both sports would admit that. And that's a huge thing for us, and that's all we're focusing on.
Well, I think F1's going through that right now because, like, it's like watching fucking paint dry, watching like Formula One. So like, there's definitely a balance between like keeping hardcore fans happy, but then having like entertaining racing.
Totally.
But
that's right.
I don't think Supercross I think Supercross is in a unique position because it's just like so fucking gnarly.
Yeah,
like there's no. I don't think you could change tires, and I don't like. It's so much more about the rider.
It's all the rider, and that's what's amazing about it as a sport. Like those bikes, like they cost jack shit. Like Dan Reardon raced the Auckland Supercross last year, literally with a stock exhaust and a stock motor. Like it means nothing. The bikes, it's like you know, there's factory bikes, and that makes a bit of difference, but you're still talking 20 to 30 grand or whatever for one of the best, for the best bike. You're not talking millions of dollars, and you're not talking about advantages.
Tense,
a rider will make up for it. Like it doesn't matter. Like we can ride Chad Reed's bike, but guess what? He can ride our bike. He's gonna fucking hose us every day. You know what I mean? It doesn't. The machinery just isn't the main aspect, and that's why from an entertainment and a sporting perspective, it is so exciting because it's all about the riders.
Lets you guys do your job on an entertainment side. But there's not real, unless you do like super random shit, then it's not really going to detract from the racing side of it.
No, and that's what blew me away is obviously I've always been like karting and supercars and F1 sort of like motorsport background and always followed those sports predominantly throughout my life. And if you're the fastest guy, you start up the front and you get an advantage over everyone else.
True.
You know what I mean? Like Supercross, I still, and motocross the same. I can't believe that I think that's the coolest part of the sport is you're the fastest guy, and what do you get? You get a gate pick. You know, like you line up with everyone else, and that first turn is just anything could happen. And with us, you know, doing the Triple Crown and doing 3 races, just mixing it up. So, you know, last year was a perfect example at Sydney where the racing was insane with Jason Anderson. You know, he won overall, but he didn't do it easy. And if he did one race and got an amazing start and then just won and led the way, potentially not, you know, a great night. Make him do it 3 times and he stacks in a corner and has to work through the field. I mean, that's, in my opinion, you know, value for money and what the fans want to see is that amazing racing which it offers.
Yeah, and why Supercross as an entertainment sport is so good. I mean, you go to a Supercars event and you're there for 3 days, and as Sando said before, you're only just seeing a section of track.
And there's so much downtime, dude.
So much downtime. We don't have any downtime. No. Like when it starts, it's like it's sensory overload, and that's the way it should be. day, it's like you're just blown away. You can't, there's so much happening. You can't see it all. Like, I mean, you can see it all, but it's just there's so much to take in.
It's like Goosebumps Tuesday.
Yeah, totally.
You got, everything's sort of 10 minutes sort of snack bites, but it links into itself. So people can still go get food and drinks, and you can still chat in between and whatever. But it's high energy, and it's always sort of mixing it up. It's not the same. It's not. It's not ever going to be an hour-long race and you just don't know what's going on, and you start and get really bored, like, your description of NASCAR when you went to that, for example.
Yeah, the worst. I thought it just sucked. It was so bad. It was terrible. But again, like Supercross, you can see it all. You can still talk. You can go get a beer. You can get your food. Again, you can, like you said, your girlfriend can enjoy it. And that's why we honestly believe the future for it is huge. And we're seeing it build momentum again, but it is a really long process, and it's an expensive process. The events are really high risk and expensive to run, because transport of 6,000 odd ton of dirt is not cheap. The venues are ridiculously expensive. The riders and to bring out international riders, it's expensive. It's a lot of money. Like, we've invested a lot of money to bring those guys out year on year, and even with that, it's hard to get them. We can offer all the money in the sun to certain riders, and they can't do it, or the teams won't let them.
Yeah. Do you think that the general public believe that the riders come for free?
We think maybe, and evidence from like that Dean Wilson sort of social media campaign that we had you riffing us on as well, which was a lot of fun. I mean, I think so. I think because it's the X Games. It's just an invitation, but it's really clearly not. You know, like it's a legitimate FIM Oceania Championship between the two events, and that's for us a really massive focus, because we want this to be seen around the world as a credible, or the most credible international championship outside of the World Championship, and be seen as a great test and great sort of pre-season build up to the World Championship. We recognise the World Championship is insane, and we have the utmost respect for the teams and the riders and the testing they have to do. So we know it's hard to write 4, 5, 6 weeks out from the World Championship, allow their riders to fly over and fly their bikes over and come and race in Australia and New Zealand. Like, we understand that that's difficult, but there's also riders now that are wanting and believing in the championship, and Chad Reed, a great example. He won that championship last year, and that helped him with JGR and helped him get momentum into the championship, and that's a perfect example. And arguably with Dino, it would have done the same, or sort of did the same, even he came second. Because it gave him that momentum and that confidence of those race starts and legitimate racing leading into that World Championship. It's worked for Brayton as well, and Anderson.
Dude, I think it's worked.
Is a fantastic advocate for it.
Yeah, Brayton is a good example of going the Supercross only deal, and he obviously does the full Australian Championship and then just the World Championship, and that's it. Like, that's his season, and he has a huge break in the middle, spends time with his family, and then he starts up again. So he's really changed the game.
Bercy and Geneva, and then you do well there, that's like good pay. That's like a good start money, good paycheck. And then he comes here, he rides for a full contract here, contingency, all that deal, and then goes back. Like, you can make really good cash as a Supercross only dude now, but it takes supporting this championship as well to do that.
Yeah, totally. and it's a shift and it's a change of the norm, which is not easy. Like in the US, as you know, like those teams, they're US funded teams. So the Kawasaki team, the Honda team, the Yamaha team, they're local budgets out of the US. So for them, they're obviously protective over what their goals are, which is to win in the US and sell bikes in the US. So when other events and other championships like us are saying, we want Eli Tomac to come out, they're like, well, our focus is here in the US. I'm sorry, but we don't really care about you.
And money is not the issue.
And the money isn't necessarily the issue. Like, we can throw as much money as we can possibly pull together, and sometimes it just doesn't matter. They're like, their season's too full on. It's too risky. They don't have the time. We got to test.
Well, especially with a dude that does outdoors as well.
That's right. Exactly. And Monster Energy are our naming sponsor, and they would want nothing more than all of their major stars coming out here to race. And we work so hard with them on a lot of their riders to come out, and even that's hard. You know, even the teams, even with them being naming sponsor of Kawasaki, still doesn't mean that automatically allows Tomac to come out here.
No, and that's the thing. I mean, we've tried year on year, and we would love to have him. We'd love to have Ken Roxon. We'd love to have all the guys. There's no one that we wouldn't want to have. But it's hard. Like, it's not necessarily just about how much money we can throw at them, because sometimes it's not even about that. And we'll always put our best foot forward and stretch ourselves as best as we can and try and offer them a great deal. And not only that, a great holiday. Like, come out, we'll take you here and a boat, and we'll do all those things.
That is what has really secured, like, Dean is like, this is on his list every year. Ando, like those dudes go to bat to come here.
100%.
I think because the way that they get treated by you guys is like, maybe it just comes from like your background as well. Like, you know what it's like to sort of be that dude, and how hard it is to just like fly in, get holed up in a hotel, and then it's like, be at the track and do your thing and then go home. But like, that's not the case with you guys. Like, every year it's like different cool shit that these guys get to do, and it's like they're actually being able to experience another culture, another country. And I mean, I know like you guys are like friends with those guys now.
And I think, like, further to that, you know, these guys are training and testing, and like their schedules are arguably some of the hardest like physical schedules in like sport like, in the world. You know, they are arguably as fit or as full on as an F1 driver in my mind, or any, you know, AFL player or any NFL player. I mean, their schedules and their commitment to training and the amount they actually test and how physical the testing is, as well as the racing throughout the year. You think about 17 rounds of Supercross, 12 rounds of motocross, the Monster Cup, and any other events they then do. But then, you know, Husqvarna want obviously Dino and Jason to race in Europe as well as, you know, Oceania, but they can't do all of those events. They've got to have a, you know, relentless testing program as well. So if it wasn't for like Dino, Ando, those guys supporting these events and believing in these events and truly like enjoying their time here, as well as obviously us building these, you know, friendships over time, I think, you know, and like it would just not be happening.
No,
and
Chad
happen. Reed's really led that for us too, in the sense he's been an incredible advocate for us, but as has Ricky Carmichael, even Cooper Webb when he came out, you know, in the early days of his career, and Brayton every year has been, you know, so committed to this championship. I think, you know, those guys are really leading it for us in that industry. 100%.
Yeah, for sure. And all we can do is selling the holiday, because it's not about the money. What we can afford to pay them, you know, we stretch. It's a $500,000 budget to bring these riders out. It's massive.
That's crazy. Yeah. So that's per event.
Every year. It's never been less.
It's never been less, and it's huge. So, but even then, you know, per rider, when you compare that to what they earn in the US or what one race win bonus is over there, as you know, it's big money. So they're still not coming for that reason. Like they really are coming because they want to have the experience and they want to come and enjoy themselves and they want to make a trip of it. And if the fans didn't treat them well, which our fans really do, then they wouldn't come. You know what I mean? It's because they love Aussies, they love coming, they love trailing and Kiwis, and they have an awesome time regardless of how much money we throw. For some riders, that's still just not enough. Or some teams.
And the Aussies and Kiwi fans are just so vocal and so passionate, and it shows, you know, in social media. And I think that's been a big thing as well. You know, like it's really helped a lot of those riders. And you know, Jason, you know, Team Fried, you know, that thing, when he comes over here, you can see his impact over there.
Yeah,
but,
it's going to be insane.
You know, it's going to be insane. I think that, and they should embrace those guys, because they're making the decision to come here. Like, yes, we're paying them, and yes, we played around with Dino with the invite, but he's still making the choice to come here, and Dino goes the extra mile of doing that video content, which is just insane. You know, he's so committed to just having a fun time with these events, and good on him, you know. Yeah,
and those guys are legitimate legends, you know, dude. Like, as you well know, like they are awesome guys. Like, couldn't speak highly enough about them, and they come out because they love it. They love the fans, they love the experience, and like they're so good to work with. But they're coming out year on year, not because we don't look necessarily for other riders or don't talk to other riders, but they support it. They want to be here, whereas others don't, and other teams won't allow it. And luckily for us, like Husky have been really supportive of the events and really putting pressure on Europe in the Husky HQ to allow them to come, because other teams, other brands don't let that happen.
Yeah, and I would say as well, like Lucas Myrtle is a big manager over in America. He's probably been one of the best allies for us as far as really understanding it, and like he's been working with Savachi and coming out to do both events this year without actually having his team deal sorted, for example. And he's just made it really clear, and hopefully over time that's something for us with the manufacturers and teams over time is it can be in their contracts to do this championship, do this FIM Oceania Championship and start to build it into their team deals, irrespective if they ride for Honda or Kawasaki or Suzuki or whatever, because the moment there's some manufacturers that won't allow it, and then there's some that will, and then there's some teams of those manufacturers that will and won't. And some of those managers, I mean, Kenny Adams of Jason Anderson's another great one, where they've come out to the event and then they're selling it in, overseas, they're helping us and helping us do this with our relationships with them, but also the riders, and sort of convincing them of this being a good time.
I think that the thing is that the sport, it's a global, like everything is a global market now. And I think that to think about things in terms of like, just for the US market and we're going to sell bikes in this market and this, like that's just dead thinking now. And I think like we're right on the verge of that being like commonplace, to where everybody thinks in this new like global fashion.
Totally.
And I think that, this sort of like your event is like right on the verge of, it's almost like a tipping point where I think people are going to be like, all right, we need Cooper Webb here. Because it is this global branding, like the stuff that all the social media stuff that you guys did with Dino and like the Crocodile Dundee thing. Yeah. It's like, not just people in Australia are seeing that are like going to go to Aus-X Open. Like, no, everybody in the world is seeing that. And every, Eli Tomac will sell bikes in Australia. He'll sell bikes in the UK. He'll sell bikes in Europe. So I just think that is going to be, that sort of global thinking. Like that's
totally.
You hear people say like, the sport's struggling and it's struggling in the US and it's struggling here or whatever. It's like, that's the shit that makes it like work.
Yeah, that's right.
And I sort of always say like a rising tide floats all boats. It's like everyone has to like, if collectively we're of the thought that the sport is struggling, then it's like, okay, everyone then needs to get together and like help make shit happen.
For sure. Yeah. That's definitely, what we would love to see, and what we're trying to push is a positive momentum for the sport in general, not just our events, but in general for the sport, because it's an Australian thing too, where people love to shoot down everyone else and just go, MX Nationals is fucked, this Supercross is fucked, this is fucked. It's like, no, like it's actually not. The sport's actually in a great place, and the sport, it's an incredible sport. We have so much going for us. Why don't we start talking about that and how epic the sport is, and how much fun it is to ride a dirt bike, and how these events are on the up and everything's doing positively, rather than trying to unfortunately focus on the negative, which is a bit of a cultural thing that here in Australia we do a little bit, I think, if we turn that around.
Sure. And some of these athletes, like these international athletes, are, worldwide, if you just focus on their social media, their following. I mean, Chad Reed's like over 2 million following. That's very credible on the world stage in sport, not just Supercross or motocross. I mean, these are megastars equivalent to MotoGP riders or F1 stars, you know what I mean, with their followings and their worldwide reach. So that sort of needs to be recognised. And then for motocross and Supercross in Australia here, I mean, these riders, the pinnacle of Australian riders, they're in my opinion some of the fittest and best athletes in this country, and they don't necessarily get that kudos. And we need these events to really
give them a platform,
give those people to see them and fall in love with them. 35,000 people at Marvel Stadium aren't just going to be impressed by Chad Reed. I mean, Rio's super poled it, for example, a couple of times at Aus-X Open, and as you said, on a fairly stock bike. We're working really hard to broaden the appeal for not just, the internationals are there to gravitate for people to come to, but it's the Aussie guys that we need to build on and build the next Chad Reed and build the future of the sport. And that's a huge focus, which sometimes probably isn't necessarily realised, I guess, because there's such a focus on the internationals. But it's like you need the stars to get people there, but then they fall in love with the Aussie guys and everyone else is competing, you know.
Yeah, without the platform for the Aussie guys to race in front of a 35,000 people crowd or a live broadcast on Fox Sports or which broadcasts around the world, like, you know, but you need the international guys to draw the eyeballs. You
can't just sell that on Kurt Gibbs and Dean Ferris.
Unfortunately not. We hope one day we hope so, because, I mean, it saved us $500,000, which would be bloody amazing. Do you know what I mean? But it's like, that's the goal, we really need to be able to convince people to travel from interstate, which is an absolute must for government. When you're a government supported event, you have to have people travel from interstate. That's the fact. So for us, we need to have those big international guys so that everyone will fly from interstate to come, but that allows us to create the platform which then the Aussie guys can springboard off. And like, I've had great chats with Todd Waters, for example, and Hayden Malross. They're going to bring their personal sponsors to the event, show them what Supercross is all about, you know, and the Honda, all the teams, but the Honda team, I think they'll have 100 people here or something, you know, this year, showing them this is what our sport's all about, you know, and that's how it flows on. Like, but we need to give the platform and then let all the Aussies sort of, I guess, expose as many people as possible so that we can build them up along with it.
Yeah, you're so right. And that whole, like, I was definitely guilty of the mentality of like, yo, fuck, motocross sucks in Australia, blah, blah, blah. Like, I was. And then I started this, and then we just hit 1 million fucking downloads for the year, and we're 6 months in. And I'm like, okay, well, that's a lot of motocross people.
There's people, there's audience out there.
Yeah, and I think that it just takes putting shit out there to like bring these people together. And it's like, it seems like it's so fragmented and disjointed, and like there is that negativity, but it's like, if you can you know, do something and bring these people together and then give them a platform, then it's like it makes sense. Like, it's in my mind, it's like way healthier than I even thought it was, and it took me doing this to sort of realize that. And I think you guys are seeing that with your events. It's like, we can sell out 2 nights of a 16,000 person stadium, and then like Auckland was ridiculous. Like, Auckland was hands down one of the coolest nights of my life, because I went there and knew what was on the line for you guys in terms of like the weather and how sketchy it was, how much money you stood to lose, how many pre-sale tickets you'd sold, and it was like that whole night it just seemed like chaos, and then it fucking worked. And then to see like how happy you guys were, and just like how charged up people in the stands were, like it was just such an awesome experience. And it's like, that again is like, that's New Zealand. Like, we sit over here and we're like, you know, doing these podcasts or whatever. It's like, you don't think that you can pull together that many people that want to watch a Supercross race. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
and I think that's an awesome story, because you're an industry person that works in it, and then you're getting you know, brought into that excitement or brought into the vortex of it, you know. And that's really important, is that from sponsors, manufacturers, you know, distributors, you know, media outlets, riders, parents, families, we want all of them, you know, and hopefully this year it's our best opportunity ever to do that, where people will get a feel and go, fuck, like, this is sick, like, we're part of this, you know, and feel proud to be part of it, because that really was something that was missing for a while, like I said right at the start.
100% it was. Like, it's crazy. It's like, the big thing that I've been thinking about lately and through doing the podcast is like, the shit that I think lasts and matters and people like remember and support is stuff that will like positively shift the culture. And I think that like this, like what you guys are doing with these events is like, that is like, they're starting to become a culture around it. And it's like, I've got friends like my buddy Muff, he's just a mountain bike dude, and he's hitting me up about like, hey, are you going to be going to Marvel Stadium for the Supercross? And then like Brooke McDonald, UCI downhill, like World Cup guy, win Masters, like all these dudes that like live in Europe and they're from New Zealand, like they're all flying back so that they can be at like the New Zealand race. It's like, that to me is you've affected the culture at that point. If, you know, sure, they're the sort of things that are starting to happen,
awesome.
You know,
which is awesome to hear. And I think things like the Celebrity Challenge is what we're trying to do, as well as like broaden these amazing athletes from different sports and get them obviously just having a, you know, fun race on a small bike. But what that does is just it allows these other sporting athletes to come along and then obviously then recognize these athletes for what they are and what they're doing on these bikes and how hard and phenomenal it is. You know, I think in car racing in particular, everyone thinks they can, you know, drive a car as fast as most people. You know what I mean? We all do it every day.
It's a bloke thing, I think.
You know, I don't ride motocross, but I can see how hard it is. Like, I don't need to do it to realize that that's fucking hard and that's gnarly. We go to the test tracks and I watch Jason Anderson ride around. I've never rode that track before. But it doesn't matter because I'm like, that guy is like, fucking gnarly. Like, how does he do that? Like, for 30-minute moto and not make one mistake? You know what I mean? Like, because even in sort of motorsport, you can go off the track a little bit and you get a bit sideways. You go off on the grass or something, and it's no big deal. Maybe you lose a bit of time. In Supercross, you make a mistake, you fucking break your leg.
Yeah,
it's gnarly.
It's so brutal. Gnarly. It's so brutal, and it is so brutal. But that's what makes the athletes so incredible, and that is the story that we think that anyone can understand. Like, anyone can appreciate the fact that if you make a mistake, you break a bone. Like, that's intense, and they race so close, and they do it year on year, or lap after lap, and the stakes are so high. Anyone can get that. You don't have to be into Supercross to just be like, fuck. It's like,
they come off.
That's gnarly. Like, that's really gnarly, and that's what we've just got to keep showing people that and teaching people. And where our strength is that our digital reach is massive. I mean, our platforms are some of arguably the strongest in Australian sport in our official platforms in terms of video views and engagement, and that's because the audiences that love this stuff, this is how they absorb our content, and so we just got to keep pushing this content and educating people on the sport, the athletes, how fit they are. Like, Todd Waters posted an image the other day, and he's a beast. Like, he's a fucking
he's
beast.
Jack City, bro.
But all those guys they're all so, like, you can't fake it. You can't race Supercross or motocross and be a slob. Whereas in supercars, I hate to say it, and I love this, the sport.
Yeah.
There's some fucking slobs out there, but they can get by. You can't do that in Supercross. There's no faking it. It's like, if you haven't done the work, you're gonna eat shit, or you can't win. Like, it's just not gonna work.
Well, and they're riding with injuries, half the time, and battling. I mean, even what happened with Hunter Lawrence is just an example of, like, the bike malfunctions, and then he breaks his collarbone and he's out for however long he's going to be. But that happens a lot with bike malfunctions. I think that also obviously happened to Dino as well in the Supercross this year. Like, in car racing, you make a mistake or your car fails, generally 99% of the time you're not injured. You know, like when Chaz Mostert fucking broke his leg at Bathurst, that was such a big deal. But that hasn't happened for so many years.
That was like literally
ever.
National news.
Yeah, mate. Like, he flew out of Bathurst. It was like, holy fuck, what, how hardcore is supercars? It's like, that happens every MX Nationals and every Australian Supercross.
That's probably happened 10 minutes ago at QMP.
It is gnarly, and we obviously want to try and continue to make it as safe as possible, because
it's like one of those things though, like, how do you make, like, fucking shark diving
safe?
Like,
soaring through the air at 30 meters up and at speed, there's danger there, but from a fan's perspective, that's what makes it interesting and exciting, is that, like, cutthroat nature of, like...
Well, I think that's what makes, like, when you think about, like, that dude just died boxing over the weekend.
Yeah.
And it's like, I think that's what, not that we want to see that in motocross, but I think that there's certain sports where that it's like the consequences are super real.
Yeah.
And like the UFC, it's like you've watched Masvidal flying knee Ben Askren, knock him out, and the dude just like stiff as a board. It's like, there's certain sports, and I think Supercross is like that. Like, dude, I've seen crazy shit in my years of racing, and it's like every time there's that 30-second board goes sideways, the revs come up, and I'm just like, this could get fucking gnarly.
Yeah,
like,
that's right.
And not, nine times out of 10 it does get super gnarly, and I think that, like, they're the kind of events that we get attracted to, because it's like, we do know that the risk is real.
The stakes have got to be real for entertainment. Like, you're not going to watch unless the stakes are high, and
that's why I don't watch Disney on Ice.
No, that's right. But like, if a game's close in football and it's a couple of points and it's a knockout qualifier, or or anything along those lines where the stakes are high and it really matters, like, that's when it's exciting. And if you're nervous watching before the start of a race, like, I mean, I get nervous watching the start of a Supercross main, because it's like, fuck, like, what's going to happen? And that's what makes it entertaining, because you actually care enough to be nervous. I think that's why we obviously feel that it has so much potential, because there's no bullshitting the intensity of it and the risk of it and the how fit they are, and it has all the elements of an incredible sport and entertainment piece. And a huge, it's way cooler than supercars in my opinion, and I'm sure most people listening to this will say the same thing. I know I love supercars, but it's way cooler. The athletes are fitter. There's way more risk involved. The stakes are higher.
The vlogs are better.
Yeah.
Exactly.
And like the athletes are truly aspirational. Like the supercross athletes are cool. Like they're aspirational for young people to look up to. They're fit. They're healthy. You know what I mean? There's no slobs racing supercross, like I said before. So,
Ricky's racing at New Zealand though, right?
Yeah, well, he's earned the right. I think that's the thing. He's earned the right because he's done so well for so many. Well, he's the GOAT. So, but yeah, on a general terms, like that's why we think that people will learn to love it. Over time.
And it's a big investment for us this year. Not just in the events, but what we're doing is Supercross Life, which we sort of started last year. But
so you're doing like the video, like a video series.
Yeah, on the whole championship and do it online. Sick. But we believe that. Supercross Life, like behind the scenes of this sport, and it's been done obviously in the US too, but we believe that content is some of the best content that you could have because there's so much drama and there's such professional athletes, so we've been doing it in supercars for 5 years, and being paid by Fox Sports, and it's been an amazing gig for us, but we're going to invest in doing that production. Are
you still doing the supercars one this year?
Yeah. Off our own bat, like from AME's perspective, because we've got some of the most talented videographers and editors in this country, that work for AME and work on like our clients and for Fox Sports all year round. But, that's been such a huge focus for us, and we'll continue to just every spare moment we can continue to do amazing content on these athletes, not just the internationals, but the Australians as well. And the Kiwis.
Just tell those stories, get people seeing. I didn't realize that they had to train. Like, how many times have you heard, I didn't realize you had to be fit to ride a dirt bike, and you're just like, fuck man, are you serious? Like, do you realize how hard it is? Like, I'm a relatively fit person. I'm still wrecked doing 5 to 10 minutes on a moto track, like
that's what I tell people. I'm like, whenever, like, cause so with like the jiu-jitsu stuff, like all the boys would be like, oh, like how fit do you have to be to ride motocross? Like, is it harder than jiu-jitsu? I'm like, oh, well, like, yeah, if you're doing it for 30 minutes, yeah. But they're like, well, I just don't get it. I'm like, all right, picture this. So I'm going 65 Ks an hour down a dirt track that's like whooped out, right? If I let go of the bike halfway through that, I'm fucking dead. Like, think about the, you know what I mean? So it's like, so you've got a thing that is essentially, if you don't hold on, it'll kill you. So it's like, that's the level that you need to think about this. Is like, there's real consequences to hanging on. And it's like, and if it can generate enough power to just kill you when you let go, imagine the power that's coming through your hands. Like, you've got this death container that you're like trying to hang on to. It's like, it sort of makes sense when you actually think about it. And they're like, that really does make a lot of sense.
And you go to the test tracks in the US, and like Jason Anderson cycled for an hour and a half, and then he's doing 2 30-minute motos at the test track, and then he's got to go back to the gym and do a workout later, and that's just a standard fucking day. Like, I mean, you only need to watch Eldon Baker and some of the docos and videos on him and that training, like that. There's no bullshit there. Like even F1, I would say, like their simulation is obviously not physical compared to like testing of Supercross. So even when they're doing what they're doing, it's not hard compared to like Supercross when you're racing or you're testing. And motocross, obviously, it's hardcore. Even on top of then doing the weights and the training and cycling and everything else.
The concentration is exhausting alone. Yeah. Like if you're trying to be inch perfect on a Supercross track, which you have to be because of how dangerous it is, then you're concentrating that hard. I mean, you know what it's like if you ride a Supercross track. Like, you have to remind yourself to take a breath because you're fucking concentrating that hard that you forget to take a breath. And people are putting on pit boards. To everyday people, it must seem so retarded. Why are they holding breathe on the sign? It's because the dude will forget to fucking breathe because he's concentrating so hard not to kill himself that if he doesn't get reminded, he'll forget to breathe. Like, that's how intense it is, and you are so in the moment that you even forget all those things. So that's exhausting to concentrate that hard.
The crazy thing too is like I think that what really shows like the physicality of it is like film a lapper. So like it's all good. Like Jason Anderson doing 20 laps, it's like he can kind of make that look good. And it makes it look like it's not that hard. That it's like, let's go to the lapper that privateer dude that's still working, that's fit as fuck.
Yeah.
Like fit as absolute fuck. Works his job, cycles, does all his training. Way better than I could ever be at riding. And it's like, look how dog shit he is making it look on lap 18 through the whoops. And it's like, no disrespect to the dude at all. But it's like, that's just how hard it is. And like, that's the guy where I think the average punter, they're like, oh, look how slow that dude is. It's like, no, motherfucker, he's so good.
Yeah, go to the track and that dude blows past you.
He's so good. He's just that much better.
Like, totally.
That much better.
And that's what people want to see, you know, the world's best. And you see that. That's what I think, you know, you don't need to be a rider necessarily to appreciate, holy shit, these guys are insane. You know, Tony Cochran, when he first saw Jason Anderson, he was just like, he'd never seen the sport before, and he's just blown away. He's like, that guy needs to come every year. He's insane. You know, like he just couldn't believe it. But I think the other thing is, and a big focus of what Adam's working on is, you know, allowing the privateers the ability to work on their craft on Supercross tracks. Like that's another massive barrier for guys making the step from being, you know, semi-professional privateer to being fully professional. It's not that easy in this country, and it's not easy in New Zealand. I mean, they don't even have a practice track virtually at all.
Well, that's what's cool is BT posted saying that he would like open up his facility and like coach anyone that seriously wanted to do it, right?
It's epic, and and he's such a legend. But that's what we need here too, and we're looking into ways to fund some building some tracks and doing that sort of thing. Because it has been forever, since my day, and I'm sure before, where unless you knew someone, and I grew up in the suburbs, so I didn't have land. Unless you knew someone with land or knew someone that had a track, you couldn't practice Supercross, and you would turn up on the weekend and just be like, fuck, like I hope I can make this jump, like I don't really know exactly what's going on here, you know. and you know, it's like if you're a young dude and someone else is doing it, you're like, fuck, I gotta jump this, like I'm shitting myself, but I'm gonna have to do it. So we want to try and get more tracks and more access so that you know, guys can be more comfortable, turn up on the weekend and actually have done practice on the same sort of track as what we're beating. That's a real game
same
changer.
for juniors, you know, and everyone, you know, like that whole sort of build up to Supercross is so hard for even juniors, and the ability to learn Supercross is very difficult. But also I think the better we do that, and if we can have proper track for even the internationals to come and test that, it's going to be easier for them to justify coming over here as well. So it's a win all round, because they can treat that week as a test week, whereas at the moment they're coming to Australia and they get to race that one night, and for them it's like 5 days off the bike, you know, not training properly on a you know, test track like the World Championship.
We're convinced that Eldon Baker hates us and hates that Jason loves us, because he's just like, fuck, Jason, are you serious? You're going to do this again? It's like the main time that we need you doing. And Jason's like, I'm fucking going. Like, I love it. I'm going. And Jason will, like, I mean, he was doing it in Sydney last year, but he'll train the day of the event, the days before. Like, he continues his program and he works his ass off still, and so does Dino, all the guys while they're here. But like, it's a massive interruption to their program, and someone like Eldon Baker has an incredibly regimented program. He hates it, and so that's why
he just makes Jason start 2 weeks earlier. He just goes, right, are you fucking off season shorter then?
If you're going to go away for 2 weeks,
fuck it, but I, you know, I believe in these events, and he has a fun time while he's here. But you know, like, he's an animal as far as
he's one of the most interesting dudes in terms of, like, you know those memes where you're like, what I look like and what I think I look like? That's like Jason Anderson's like the definition of that meme of like what I want people to think and what I'm actually doing.
He's an animal. Like, he's a training animal,
savage,
and like, he, you know, like those guys, puts his helmet on and he's a fucking animal. Dino's the same. Like, Dino is like the most lovable, funniest dude of all time, but he's a fucking animal. Like, he trains his ass off, and when he puts his helmet on, he's a machine. So they do well to sort of act like, and they are cool characters, and they have a good time, and that's why I think fans resonate so well with them. But don't fake, you know, don't be mistaken that they're not incredly serious and like.
And look at even Chad switching it on every year. I mean, he doesn't do motocross for a very good reason. You know, he'd be burnt out well now
it's just
if he had it, you know.
body.
But he's able to, you know, have some downtime with his family, enjoy the family time, have holidays, really live it up, and then just switch on and just fucking go to animal mode and get ready for a world championship again after 20 plus years. Like, it's insane.
It was crazy.
It
was crazy at New Zealand, like how bad that motherfucker wants to
Yeah.
win. Like I would just be like,
why do you care?
How do you care so
dude?
much? I'm
why
like,
do you
I'm the
care?
same. He's the same age as me, and I'm like, I'm exhausted watching him. And I've said this to him. I'm like, dude, I don't know how he can be fucked because, like, I love that you can be fucked to do it go that hard. And he enjoys his off season. Like, there's been years he'll stack on 10 kilos and just like eat pies and do whatever he wants and like jokes about it, but then he gets gnarly again and just like sheds it all off, gets fit as fuck, and then battles in the top 10 in the world again. And it's just like, mate, you're a machine. I don't know how you do that.
And it set
especially
him up
after
like,
winning 2 like world championships. It's not like he's one of those guys that's like never won and he's like, this year I'm gonna do it. I'm gonna do it. I'm gonna do it. And it's like, bro, you've already fucking done it. Just chill.
You could easily just say, I've had an amazing career. I've achieved, all these records that he's done, 44 or 45 victories or whatever it is. Just gnarly. You could be proud to say what you've achieved, I think, but it's not enough. Like for him, it is not enough.
And after Aus-X Open last year, when he didn't win and he won 2 years, or years prior, like to come to New Zealand, Dino's just on top of him, and then to just come out and win all 3 like that was just, crazy that he was able to switch it on and even change the bike and make those changes. So I think that for us was an amazing thing for the championship for Chad to win, because it got him, whether it got him the JGR right or not, that could have already been in play, but it certainly got all the momentum into the championship, but also it sort of legitimised, and he even has helped endorse the events and the tracks in the sense that it meant he could do some legitimate testing before the World Championship as well. He's making changes to the bike that set him up into the World Championship.
Yeah, you were in the car when we drove back from New Zealand to the hotel, weren't you?
Nah, not me personally.
Oh,
no.
dude, in the car, like that fully meant a lot to him.
Yeah.
That he was like, I think that gave him a new sense of belief that I think that you know what it's like. You're sitting on the line of a national and you're like, I want to get the whole shot. But like, you don't believe you're going to get the whole shot. You know what I mean? And I think that Chad definitely had a thing of like, oh, I want to be battling for podiums in the AMA next year. But I don't think before New Zealand there was like a genuine belief. But I think that to win all 3 against those dudes in the conditions and the way that he just put the fucking hammer down, I like the way he was talking in the car and like he FaceTimed Ellie and stuff, and it was like you could see that it meant like a lot to him, and I'm sitting in the back just being like, fuck, man, like that's crazy how important that can be to a guy like that,
Totally.
That's had that
and
success.
same for Dino. I think it was obviously in New Zealand he had that clutch issue, but it gave him the confidence, and then I think it was the round 1 that he was leading that whole first race.
Dude. And it was a butter too.
You know what I mean? Linked with so like that really endorses these events for us, which is huge because, the Americans have got such a big season and such a big deal going on in the World Championship. But for these guys to help really, back to your point about that international awareness and doing these events, they're Australia, New Zealand, but the awareness and the TV exposure and the social media reach is so far reaching, it doesn't actually matter where they're racing. Race starts, it's a quality field, and it's credibility. It's a FIM sanctioned, Oceania Championship, and it's legit. They want that trophy just as much as they want A1,
Yeah, and that's why I think Melbourne will be even more important because it'll be World Championship spec. The track's going to be big.
Yeah. So is that the reason why you guys were pushing so hard to do it in Melbourne, is like you wanted to have a legit track?
Yeah, there's a big part of it. I mean, and fit the people in, because we sold out Saturday night every year for 4 years, and it's a Saturday night thing for us, we would sell out Saturday night, but then we had Sunday afternoon, and it was always a bit of a push, and it's more of a family type of a thing, but this was like the way to try and get everyone to experience Supercross Saturday night the way it should be. That's the first thing, and like this will be like a legit World Supercross Championship spec track, 6,000 ton of dirt. It's like we're doing everything humanly possible to give everyone the full international experience.
Who's doing the track design and build?
I have a lot to do with it, but work with a couple of track builders. Like Brooksy heads up a lot of that stuff, but like Josh Proctor, Pro Tracks, is really helpful and done a lot of the design work as well. So we sort of like throw ideas around, because we discuss things when it comes to like TV angles, signage, you know, where's the freestyle ramp going to sit compared to everything else? And, you know, we sort of discuss those sorts of things ourselves first, and then we go to those guys and say, hey, this is how we need it to work. But in this case too, we've got the huge underlying issues literally underlying in the support of the car park underneath, which means that the machinery can only go on certain parts because it's got to be supported underneath and all those kind of things.
How's that work? So there's a car park under the stadium.
There's two.
And if you don't like put supports under that, the weight could cave in the stadium.
There's two levels, so it's effectively two levels of undercover underground parking that all has to be underpinned, and all machinery and all trucks and obviously all that dirt needs to be underpinned. So
what does underpinning mean?
It's just like massive,
acro
like
props,
acro props you'd see for your house, you know.
Yeah, okay.
It's just like a shitload of them.
Yeah,
basically. But obviously heavy duty and huge, you know, railway sleepers propping them. But the other issue is you've got to prop the sleepers as well, because you can't just, the prop can't then penetrate through the ground or penetrate up through and either impact, you know, the seal on, you know, beneath the venue or even the ground underneath, you know, like it's crazy.
Well, Marvel Stadium's literally built on sludge. Like it's built on sludge and it's got car parks underneath. So if we don't support it properly, not only will the roof / the floor of the track cave in, then the pins would go through the ground, and there's stories of when they were building that stadium and they were hammering the pylons into the ground, they lost them. Like they had to chain them up because there was ones that just like they sent them into the ground and they just kept going. Like we met with the engineer that designed the building, and they're like, when they were building it, they hammered it into the sludge and they were losing pylons. So that's just why, you know, why there's so much challenge involved with all this. You know, and it's a massive engineering issue.
Yeah, they had to underpin for the speedway, but not that same amount of dirt. And obviously it's just an amount that's flat, you know, but not the undulation of all the jumps and the different weights and obviously the different machines to do that and the different size. Like that's just a circle, whereas we're obviously taking up the whole soccer pitch internally. So that's been you know, a huge amount of work. But you know what I would say as far as the track design is Adam's been able to mix up that Sydney track every year and make it exciting, and every year it's had new spice. And obviously we dealt with doing that tunnel, which was a sort of a feat in itself because that was such a small venue. But you know, I think every year in Melbourne, you know, certainly it's always going to be exciting mixing it up and having, you know, things like the shortcut and things that we've done to also mix up that racing is really cool. And yeah, I think this year is going to be something else in Melbourne. We're pretty pumped.
Sort of you mentioned like that tunnel in Sydney. Like people have no idea what we went through to get that tunnel. Like it races literally past the main kitchen for the stadium, and we went to them and said, it's so small, we really need the track to be bigger. Like, can we like race out here? And they're just like, you fucking serious? And we're like, yeah, we'll build a tunnel, it'll come out here like they did it in Paris. It's really cool. And it's like, that's the kitchen. Like this is all the food that feeds the whole venue. Like it's right there. And so that tunnel, like you can see when you watch the videos, like it's all covered in like plastic. Like it was airtight, so that the fumes couldn't get into the kitchen, you know. Like it was just this crazy stuff, and now we've moved into this huge stadium in Marvel Stadium, which is incredible. But we've got these full underpinning engineering things that we've got to overcome. You know, which like I said, it's been 2 years in the process to now, and we're still working on. Like today, I'm getting emails about, this is the machine that can, you know, the machines that we need to build, you know, is the support going to be good enough? You know, how are we going to get all the trucks in and out, you know, as fast as possible? There's going to, because we have to use just tandem tippers, so not truck and dogs, you know, and there's no trailers allowed to be on the dirt trucks because of the weight, which means there's 800 truck movements, you know, because you would normally do it in 400, you know, is around 6,000 tonne of dirt. So now it's got to double that because we can't get the thing in. So, okay, how are we going to get 800 truck movements in and out in the time that we need to build this thing, you know, and get the grass uncovered in time and all that sort of stuff? So we've got like full engineers working on this thing now to come up with a plan.
We've got IEDM that do the project build of, say, the Gold Coast 600, you know, building that track to the minute and then having it all opened up around all the houses and everything. You know, those guys are doing our track, and minute by minute they're helping us with every single movement. We've got everything project managed from as soon as we're in there on the Wednesday to as soon as we're out that Monday morning following the event. and it's like every single movement. I mean, even just the dumping of the dirt will be coordinated in a way, because we couldn't have, 6 trucks all dump at the same time in the same spot, because then that'll go over the underpinning requirements, for example, so it's like all
what a joke.
meter by meter mapped out. Like
we laughed last year.
It sounds too hard, boys. Fuck it.
Yeah, what we said last year, we laughed because we were like, we should have done a documentary on behind the scenes, all the shit that went down and how gnarly it was. And we obviously had riders' injuries. We had terrible news with RV, and his dad passed away, and that was gut wrenching for all of us. And then he was coming, and then he couldn't come, and it was just all like such a roller coaster. And we're like, this year we're like, we should really be doing a doco, because this build alone will be like the most ridiculous mission of all time.
I said to Adam, I think it was the first or second year of Sydney, I said we're never doing an outdoor venue ever, like, because it rained or whatever, and we were indoor, and it just meant no stress. And then lo and behold, we're in New Zealand, and there was no one checking the weather apps and speaking to the bureau meteorologist more than I was. Like,
he's been looking at Auckland's weather now. It's like, dude, it's going to change. Don't worry about it.
But again, I think, and we've got an amazing partner over there in MediaWorks, which is really cool in New Zealand.
What do they do?
So they're the largest media network in the country. So they own TV, radio, and digital, and now outdoor signage. So they can advertise our event better than anyone. Like, they gave us over $2 million worth of advertising for New Zealand, for example, which was just insane.
That event blew my mind, like, because what did you do in pre-sale?
Well, it was over 20,000 on the day, but I think the first day was like 5,000 or something like that, which was amazing. Because we'd only finalised the partnership with MediaWorks like a few weeks before, and then we went on sale and we did 5,000 the first day, which was incredible.
Yeah, and we believe, obviously, in the sport over in New Zealand as much as we believe in it here. And this year it's part of the Australian Championship, and that will be great, because obviously it's broadcast live on Fox all around Australia, but it's also broadcast live over on Sky in New Zealand as well. So that's a big thing for the sport, over here and over there, for both events, both our events to be broadcast live on TV.
We definitely feel like with the Australian Championship and then moving into our tour events, which obviously form their own little championship with FIM Oceania between them, that we're moving in a positive direction, and we hope that everyone else starts to see that. And I think you do, in a sense that you see like teams bringing over riders, investing in them themselves. You see like expansion in infrastructure and the teams investing back in, and they wouldn't be doing that if they didn't have confidence that it was worth doing it for. So I think it's a big sort of positive step, and what makes us feel pumped overall where the sport's at, because like we said, when we bought the rights for the Australian Supercross Championship from MA, and we did that because we felt like the sport in general was in a pretty bad place, and we were worried. Like, we had our event which was going well, but the sport can't survive off one event. Like, we were like, fuck, if we don't, we went to a particular event and it was so bad, and the standard was so poor, that we were just like, we've got to fucking do something.
I mean, it's dangerous as well.
It was so dangerous. Unsafe. Riders were getting hurt. The experience was shit. There's no seats for anyone. People were just like climbing over barbed wire fences and shit, and we were just like, we're better than this, and that was really a pivotal time for us.
They were charging $40 per person to go there, so you're just pissing people off. Like, you can go to Marvel Stadium for $40, for example. You know what I mean? Like, and then the difference was just too great. And we're really excited for this year. I mean, with Troy Battis Events doing the other 3 events in Brisbane, Wollongong, and Port Adelaide, and Adelaide is fantastic. Gilman Speedway. So we're loving working with those guys, and feel overall it's just growing. And you're seeing that with some more of the Americans doing the Australian Championship this year. And obviously more will be announced, but definitely Brayton endorsing that championship as he has, coming back, I think, to win 4 years in a row is his plan, is amazing, and even guys like Dan Reardon, that's a 5-time, champion, and he's coming back, and I think that's linked with the credibility of the series and him enjoying it and enjoying performing in front of those crowds and performing in big stadiums again, which is what the sport deserves and the athletes deserve.
Yeah, that's right. And that comes back to, you need people to want to be involved and want to be part of it. And they now want to race the series because they want to be in Brisbane Entertainment Centre. They want to be at Wynn Stadium. It's a great venue. They want to race in Port Adelaide because it's a good venue. It's a great track. Then they want to be involved in our events in Auckland and in Melbourne. And And that is what it's all about, because that builds the energy and get the depth in the field again. You know, like that is happening already, and this year will be the deepest field that we've seen in a long time, for sure, because people are pumped to do it now. They're pumped to be back involved. You'll see full gates, but whereas a few years ago, and the one in particular we're talking about, you know, like I would have placed better that year than I did back when I was trying to race, because I could have come last and still would have been placed better. Do you know what I mean? Because there was no one in the field. There's no one in the field. Like there was like 9 or 10 riders in SX1, and we're just like this has to change, and it really is changing. And we feel that Troy Bayliss events do a great job. We work well with them. You know, AME handles the PR and the content and the social media accounts with them, and marketing. So we're sort of, you know, using our team to grow the Australian Championship Series, as well as focusing on our own events and what we're trying to achieve there. So you're getting some consistency too, which was lacking for a long time. You'd be like, you know, Aus-X Open would be doing, you know, what we were doing, but then there'd be another event that completely ignored anything.
The sport needs a Bathurst 1000, and that's what we hope the Aus-X Open can forever be. You know, that massive event that just, like, you know, marquee. People tune in once a year, like you said. You know, like that's Bathurst, right? Like most people that follow supercars that are hardcore will follow most races, or all, or some will just follow the free to air, but people that don't really know much about the sport or are not a massive fan, the only event they'll tune into is Bathurst. You know, and that's still good for the sport to have that, you know, and hopefully Aus-X Open continues to keep growing, and that's that, you know, that one-off event, the marquee event that people tune into. And we feel there's no better city in Australia than Melbourne to do that and in that venue, because Melbourne, they're just sport nuts, you know, and it's proven by the ticket sales so far, and it should only get better, and it should only broaden the appeal for the sport, we feel, in Melbourne. And
it's a flow-on effect, you know. Again, if there's energy behind it, then because there's sponsors, for example, that won't sponsor us, or they can't afford to sponsor us because we can be expensive for some brands, but they'll sponsor the rest of the Australian series, for example. So it flows down and it flows on. So there is more opportunities, you know, for teams and riders that doesn't mean that they all sponsor us or have to do anything with us, but if they get involved in the sport, that's good. You know, like we want the brands to get involved in the sport, whether it be with us or with other teams or with riders or whatever, you know, and that helps grow, like you said earlier, it grows the whole pie for everyone, I guess.
Or even like, obviously we did the 2 podcasts at Sydney and Auckland, and like they were our 2 biggest months, man. Like it was massive. Like we had Chad on the show, and we had like a couple big guests and stuff, but like just that effect that had on us, and then what we want to do going forward this year. It's like it even allows us to grow, and it's like we're a part of the industry, so it's like if it had that effect for us, then it's like it's gonna have that effect for other brands, other riders, other, you know, like Jats is gonna be a privateer this year. He's looking like we've been helping him put together a team, and it's like it's looking like he's gonna have a super legit outfit to just do Supercross only this year, and create his own cool content, and it's like it's a platform for a guy like him, which is fucking amazing as well, you know.
And he's a great character, and he deserves it, you know. And that's what it's all about. And I think that, again, from our side, Supercross Life and all that extra premium content that we want to do for the Australians as well as the internationals is a huge focus, because some of these, like the video content, like Adam said, we had more video views on Aus-X Open's official channels in 2017 and 18 than like the AFL Grand Final, the Bathurst 1000, you know, like major events, MotoGP in Australia, you know, like the audience is so big internationally that we can sort of get these guys out there. And some of these, you know, the docos that we do on YouTube and stuff can get hundreds of thousands of views. I mean, Ricky Carmichael and Ronnie Mack that year got 3 million views just on Facebook. You know, it was like over 6 million views that year in 2017 across YouTube, Facebook and Instagram of a non-race. And if that doesn't sum up, you know, where we need to go with entertainment and showing that 100%. It's racing, of course, but it's also, you know, people want to have a laugh and they want a character like Ronnie Mack, or they want to see Ricky Carmichael race Chad Reed or others, you know, like they want to see these legends of the sport too. And that's what we've been trying to, you know, sort of, you know, really help the legends of the sport as well, you know, and every year just sort of keep mixing up who comes out and and work with them. Like Ricky's fantastic ambassador for us too, you know, like he's coming out for a very like incredible fee, you know, and working with us, but he believes in the sport in Australia and New Zealand, and he's an amazing advocate for us.
Yeah, one of the best for sure. And what we need, like, as a sport is rivalries, you know, like I think that's the thing. Dude, that's what people want to watch, and probably our opportunity. And if we were going to, probably something that we ask the riders and we push them to do and we hope that they do, is just speak out a bit, and you don't have to be everyone's best mate. Like what I hate seeing in supercars is that everyone's bum chums with everyone, you know, and all the time. It's like, and Tony says it too, and he's just like, the dude just beat you. Why are you fucking hugging him? Like, aren't you pissed off that you lost? I know Chad talks about it a bit too. Like, he mentioned the other day on social something about, like, back in the day, the fierceness of the rivalries, and like, you've got to hate to lose. And like, we want the riders to start, like, again, just being passionate, like care enough to be pissed off if you lost, rather than just being like, oh, it was cool, like you know, I got second and it's cool. Like, just get some rivalries going, like hate on someone, like talk a bit of smack, you know, like do the Conor McGregor.
Is the best example of that. You know, he would be so respectful after he lost, but also he would fucking like want that more than anyone, and he would say anything he could to fuck with their head, and look at their success and who he is now, you know. But at the end, if he got beaten, he was the first to be, you know, incredibly respectful afterwards. But he realized it's building that anticipation for that, you know, that event against Mayweather, for example. You know, he was probably never going to win that, but he built up and built up and built up, and everyone tuned in around the world. Like, it's the best example.
It gives you like an emotional connection to it. Yeah. Because you either like, well, some of the most successful fighters, well, Floyd Mayweather, he's the heel. Like, people fucking hate the dude. Yeah. And it's like, and in a way, like, Chad was that guy that really rose him to prominence. Like, in the, you know, in the early days, like, people hated Chad and they loved to hate him because he was like, fuck Ricky Carmichael, you know, fuck James Stewart. And it's like, our most viewed video is the one where he's talking about the rivalry with James. You're right, dude. People love that shit.
Totally. Well, if they love or they hate them, it's still passion, it's still a win, and that's, you know, we have some of the most passionate fans in Australian sport. There's no doubt. But, you know, like, you need that rivalry, you need the athletes to really endorse that. And I think that's been a thing with Supercross too. The guys realise they're not top 3 sport in the country like some of the V8 guys, you know, think they are or know they are, you know. So they've got more time to do the, you know, things around the events, do some of the touristy stuff for government, which is amazing for us. You know, do like Dino Wilson take the piss, or, you know, Jason Anderson doing, you know, Team Fried, or DJing, or, you know, going above and beyond for sponsors and for partners and for fans, you know, than what a lot of sports don't do.
The fierce rivalry, where I think, like, we, as we saw with the Dino campaign, we got ripped on pretty hard, which we enjoyed, to be honest, because you enjoy that people care enough. Like, you've just got to care. Like, if no one commented and cared, to be like, fuck, no one cares. Like, that sucks. I'd rather someone go, you guys are fucking idiots and you're this and you're that, because at least they care enough to be passionate. And it's the same with, like, following certain riders. You want people to love and hate some. Not everyone's going to love Chad Reed. You want people to passionately love him or passionately hate him, so they at least want to watch. You know, like, if you don't care, you don't want to watch. Like, you don't give a fuck, you know. Whereas if you passionately hate someone like Mayweather or whatever, McGregor, you'll watch, like, because you want to see him either win or lose or whatever.
No, even like Barsha last year was a classic example. Now, he never came out, which was fucking terrible, but, you know, like, Chad hates Barsha. And he was even saying, I don't want him there, you know, like, but, you know, like, of course he's still going to race it, but, you know, we're not going to just have everyone there that Chad doesn't, you know,
can't just be a circle,
you know,
you know? exactly. Yeah, we're going to have people that
same
hate
with
each
him
other.
and Jason. You know, he's no doubt expecting Jason to go hard, and Savachi could be a huge surprise this year too. But, you know, that's what it's all about, and we need to build that up. I don't think anyone's really giving Jason that, you know, that credit sometimes of where he sits. You know, you really deserve that world championship, and still sometimes I think Tomac gets a bit more shine and he hasn't won one. You know what I mean? It's so fucking hard to win that championship. But, you know, Savachi's a classic example. Like, we really want him to, you know, build up to these events and fucking come out here and hopefully potentially win and be a surprise, because he's capable of doing it.
Yeah, the more we can encourage and we want the Aussie guys, like there's some amazing talent coming through, and like a Luke Clout, for example, he's the whole package. Like and Toddy Waters, but like Clout, he's a good looking dude. He's got a good looking missus. He's aspirational. He's on the best team. He fucking can ride like a demon. So, if you're an Aussie fan, like he's someone to look up to and someone to follow and someone to want to try, and like he might pull a whole shot and fucking win a race, and that's and if he does, like it'll go off. And we want these Aussie guys to really to put themselves in the mix, not just on the track, but as in, we need to build them up and build their followings, etc. But they're legit athletes and build those rivalries. We don't want them to just be like, Justin Brayton's, he's a good guy and he's really good, and so which Luke Clout won't, and neither will Todd Waters or the other guys or Dan Reardon or whatever. They'll want to beat him. They'll want it so bad, sure. And that's what we want. We want to see that, so that then people they want to watch because they want to see what's going to happen.
I think we followed Cloudy last year at Geelong, for example, and he injured himself and ended up in race safe, for example. You know what I mean? And just show that, like that true drama that they can. You can just make that one mistake. I think he was either leading or coming second at the time, and then just whatever, that quick moment where he just
whatever happened,
blocked out whatever happened, and he just makes a mistake, and then bang, he's in med safe and race safe, sorry, and then he's he's out for the night, maybe missing the next round. Like it's amazing content, but he's back this year, and we're incredibly excited to see how he goes.
Well, I think too, like you guys are giving these guys a license to be themselves, and it's like not like bad behavior is encouraged, but it's like you're encouraging these dudes to like say what they want to say, 100%. Do what you want to do, because I think like Jats fucking essentially lost a ride last year with Factory Honda because you carry on a little bit too much, and it's like, and he's another guy where it's like he's that Jason Anderson dude, like he lived with us last year, so like I watched every meal he ate. I listened to every fucking smoothie that cunt made at 5 a.m. Like he follows his shit to a T, trains super hard. Yeah. But it's like because he's making fucked up Jats mix like shit on his Instagram, that there's like people have this connotation that he's not trying. Yeah. And it's like, but then tell me another Australian guy that's got a following like Jats, and like then you get like Dino and Ando want to like mess with him, and it's like then that's starting to bridge that gap, and it's like you guys are giving these dudes a license to be like this, and I think that we almost need that in a way too, for it to come from the promoters to be like, hey man, have as much fucking fun as you can.
Like years previous, I remember Hammy and Ando like
that
punching
whole
on,
deal,
like you don't necessarily need to be swinging punches, but at least if you get beaten, like be pissed enough or care enough that you don't just go and hug the bloke. Like at least, be passionate, and be happy to say things. And some of those press conferences in the US, and Chad's been great for it over the years to say what he thinks and speak up. Whereas, and when we are going to encourage that, and we want to encourage that throughout the whole year or always, in comparison to supercars, for example, that they've squashed their personalities down so much that the guys are too scared to say anything because they'll get a fine. We don't do anything. I mean, we paid Robbie Marshall's fine when he got done one for doing a backflip, you know, because we're like, mate, that was sick.
Yeah.
And okay, we got in trouble for that a bit because there's safety issues and all that, and you've got to always walk a fine line.
Is there a safety issue? Like, was
not
it a
really.
Fucking backflip, or like you're just doing the
I
jump?
don't think
like,
it's any safer, you know what I mean? Like whether he's flipping or not, it's still gnarly dangerous out there.
Yeah,
you know
super
what I mean?
dangerous regardless.
And he can do it all day long, so you know what? Like,
he's probably
there's no
more
risk.
at ease doing that than he is hitting the whoops.
Yeah, exactly. Totally. Who wouldn't
For
be?
sure.
I mean, I don't know. Probably not me, but we want people to speak out a bit and have a bit of fun with it, and like create these rivalries, create these stories, so people actually want to pay attention.
Well, I think the thing, like, I guess a broader theory on the whole thing is like, back in the day when it sort of really started getting super watered down, it was sort of before social media. Yeah. So like what would happen in my, like the way that I've kind of theorized it is like, so you'd get say supercars, you get them on the podium, and then it's like, oh, fuck, I don't want to say anything because then the media is going to run with it all week. Yeah. And then if I don't get on the podium next week, then I don't have a platform to like say my piece. So it's like, I'm just not going to fucking say anything. And then they just go blah, 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 blah. Track was great. Sponsors were great. Whatever. But now I think that you've got social media. So like Justin Cooper was a good example at Vegas or Hangtown or whatever. He just like got to say on his, so he just had a fucking rant. So it's like he got to say all the shit he wanted to say. He said what he wanted to say on the podium. He got backlash for it. The media lashed out at him. But it's like, it's almost like everybody's got their own media channel now. So I just don't think dudes are as scared to say, like, it's just starting. I think the last couple of years, it's like just getting the bat to the point where the riders or the drivers have the power back, where it's like, no, I can do a FaceTime live, Instagram live, or I can post on my stories and be like, say my side of the story.
Get the story straight.
100%.
And then, you know, there was a bit of a thing like, there's dudes in the media like Steve Mathis, for example, like in the US. It's like he'll just say whatever he wants because like he's got a big soapbox to stand on, and it's like you're just like, fuck, dude. Like, do you really need to say that about that guy? And it's like there's the clickbait sort of element, like he's getting paid on his clicks, and it's like I think there was a point where like the media and the writers would like work against each other. And it's like just now I think we're starting to see with like this new, even like the guys I've had on the show, it's like they really get to tell their side of the story, and I get the sense that like they've never got to do that before in such a like a long format way too.
Well, I think that's been the success of your show, right? Is that how comfortable people can be talking to you and connecting with those riders.
That soothing, deep voice, I think.
It's your relationships too in the industry and your understanding. But, you know, I think ultimately social media is pretty fucking gnarly, you know, like for athletes now, you know, if someone hates them, they can talk to them now, you know, whereas back in the day that you couldn't call some, you know, an athlete up because you wouldn't have his number, but now it doesn't matter that you don't have his number, you can just fucking tell him what you think, you know, and I'm gonna do it.
It's pretty
unfair, you know, so they've got to deal with that, so that there's that to play with, but there's also commercial partnerships and issues there, as well as like your example with, you know, a manufacturer, you know, that plays a part. But then it's responsibility and people caring what people think about them and fans. You know, no one really, you know, probably cared back then or realized the impact they were having on people when they said whatever they wanted, and then they didn't have their social media blowing up. But in saying all of that, there's still Dana White and UFC schooling everyone around the world on how to build entertainment. Do you know what I mean?
Crazy how how hard they're killing it.
That's right. And he gets it better than anyone. And maybe Supercross will never be like that. But we do need to realize that you've got to have talkability.
You guys have the chance to do that. Like, because I mean, what's the long game? Let's fast forward 10 years. It's like, you know, you guys do have a chance to be like that renegade Dana White style thing. Like I'm obviously a huge UFC guy, like with the fight stuff, but like I look at that and I'm like, no fucking shit, it sold for $4 billion. Like no shit, this works. Like you get a guy that goes up and he can do whatever he wants and he's unapologetic. It's like, what are these rules we have to follow?
It's crazy.
Yeah.
You know,
It's the
who wrote these rules?
Well, they announced the other day, and then bang, where they already forecast 60,000 fans. They announced the other day for Marvel Stadium. It's like, you know, like we're just, you know, building up the courage to get, you know, maybe 25,000 fans. Hopefully this year it's going to be 35, which would be outstanding. But like, it's just. You can't even think that they can do that so quickly, you know. They are the equivalent of like a U2 coming and touring every 5 or 10 years and selling out 60,000 tickets. And they're literally on that level in Melbourne. It's crazy.
Yeah, and it is rivalries. That's what it is, because people want to see these dudes that hate each other go to battle, and that's what we do have the opportunity to do. We don't have them punching each other's heads in, which personally I like better. I like the racing better than I like the fighting. But we do have people that line up next to each other and genuinely don't like each other and genuinely want to beat the guy next to them more than they care about their own safety. Do you know what I mean? Which is pretty fucking cool. Like that they care that much that they're going to lay it on the line that much to win. And that's what people want to see. So we just got to keep telling them that that's what this is about. Like you come along and you're going to watch these. Like Chad Reed doesn't want to be beaten at home. Like he was miserable last year. Like we pay him the same whether he wins or he loses. And he was fucking miserable, you know. Like none of those guys come out just to circulate. They want to win,
dude.
Totally.
Like we did the podcast after Sydney, and he was off it.
He's off it.
Like he was fully off it. Like, but while setting up, he was just like losing his shit. Apparently, like Ellie was saying, like, dude, just fucking chill.
Like, well, look at Dino too. You know, we did a video on it, just showing the behind the scenes of that race in New Zealand. Like how devastated he was. He cared so much for the championship, and that means a lot to us, and it should mean a lot to them in time, and we hope it continues to grow. But you know, like he couldn't post that video because there was commercial reasons why he couldn't post that video, because he can't show, you know, some parts of that video as an example. Do you know what I mean? But that's a summary, I guess, of social media. Is like sometimes we as a promoter can do that.
So
and we can,
is it
you know,
because
have
like
no limitations, but they not necessarily can they, due to commercial, you know, reasons, not just that scenario, but other examples, they can't always share what we can, you know? So
we can always be the, you know, the person that says whatever we want to say in a way. And, you know, I mean, like that, on a lighter note, like the Dundee video, like what was Jats doing smacking the chamber? I laugh out loud every time because I'm like, what motivated you to smack the chamber?
And the spelling of, you know, and Dino calling us out, you know, like that's just fucking funny.
That's
like we saw that, we had no idea, man,
Yeah.
you know, and it's just a laugh, and it should be because like fuck,
well,
you know.
it's fucking. We're supposed to be having fun, but like, dude, Dad was fucking pissed because like my dad's Jats' mechanic, and he's like, this fucking idiot. He was like, I'm gonna look like a dickhead.
He got so much shit for that. It was funny.
It was so fun. I don't know who pointed it out, but I just saw a comment about like, what's he doing smacking the chain?
And then people are chiming in. Yeah,
but that's what makes him so like. Jats is a fucking special dude for motocross and supercross in Australia.
Yeah, we need him for sure.
But he's a character, but he's a good looking fit dude as well. You know, like motocross and supercross guys pull hot chicks. Like, let's not shy away from that too. You know, they're aspirational, fit, fucking ripped guys that are risking their lives, and that attracts
pretty fucking cool
women. You know, it's attraction to the sport. You know, we've talked about that as well. I mean, you know, we need to really highlight them because the motocross in general, like the perception is, you know, like.
Crusty demons,
maybe? Yeah, it's probably more like that. Dude, I think that's a great
100%.
example, you know. People that don't know much about it and don't see these events or don't see the athletes and see how professional they really are, they just think they don't give a flying fuck.
Yeah.
You would think that Harry Bink just parties and never fucking trains. If you didn't watch all this stuff closely enough, and then to see him so ripped, you don't realize that he's probably one of the hardest trainers in the fucking country.
Yeah,
you know?
Yeah, he makes me feel like a loser.
Animal.
Yeah.
And he will do it every single day.
Yeah.
Bro, he'll be fucking fully sideways, and then he'll like, we've had mornings where it's like 7 o'clock in the morning, and he runs past. Then he comes up and he's like, oh, what's up, man? Have a coffee. And he's like full sweating. And like, I'm like just wiping shit. And I was like with him the night before, wasn't drinking. I struggled to get up and he was lit. And I'm like,
nothing stops him.
He just don't give a fuck.
Yeah, it's a bit of a misconception, but that's obviously something with these events you can build over time. And what it does do is when these ladies and mums and females and non-fans and athletes like AFL stars see these guys firsthand, then they go fucking hell, and then you win them. You win them over. You know?
Well, we've done that with supercars. Like supercars drivers have a huge amount of respect for supercross riders and motocross riders. Like they watch and see our stuff and go, those guys are nuts. Like
so do MotoGP and F1 guys.
Yeah. There's a lot of genuine respect from other athletes. You know, but we just need to get that into mainstream. We just got to get that to the mainstream.
Like Dan Ricciardo and Jack Miller are huge advocates for Supercross, for example. You know,
Jack Miller grew up racing motocross.
Yeah. So it's definitely there. That's why we think the sport has all the ingredients. It's just got to tell everyone about it, really, and we've all got to tell everyone about it. It's everyone's responsibility. You know, I think that's the thing, is that people love to, you know. It's all the promoter should do this, or the MX Nationals, or Kevin Williams needs to do this. We need, like, it's all of our job to promote the sport in a positive light, to get people behind it, to get people excited about it. You know?
And as corny as it sounds, it's like everyone buying those tickets, they're building the sport. You know, they don't realize it, but they're buying a 40 or 80 or some of the VIP tickets, $170 tickets. They're supporting the sport because it's all going back in.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah, you're so right, and like. I sort of alluded to it before, but like, I mean, I come back and I was like, oh, I'm just going to do this podcast and fuck motocross and blah, blah, blah. And then it's like, it's a loser's mentality. And like, I myself had a loser's mentality about the growth of the sport. And then it's like, no, like, I fucking do love this shit. And it's like, if it doesn't get bigger, and I haven't done my part, and I still want to complain about it, then it's like, that's my fault.
Yeah,
you know?
That's right.
And it's like, we do all have a responsibility to, you know, put your best foot forward. And it's like, comment on something on Instagram with positivity, like something, share something, go to an event, buy a ticket, share the live stream, you know.
Buy someone's merchandise.
Buy merch, for sure.
100%.
Yeah, it's right. It's everyone's responsibility. Everyone wants to say, oh, we need this or we need that, or why don't they do this? And you know, the amount of times we said, why don't you promote an MX Nationals event?
Yeah.
Why don't you promote a Supercross? Like, we're open to it if you want to promote one. Oh, fuck no.
Yeah.
Like we would get emails like from people just going, like, had the classic email we had once was like a screenshot of ANZ Stadium, like sent to us to say, you realise this venue's right next door to where you are. I'm like, thanks, dude. Didn't fucking realise. Can't believe it. There's a fucking stadium right next door. I said to Santa, did you know there's a big stadium right next to Kudos Bank Arena? And I wrote back to this dude, actually, and he was saying, why don't we go to, why don't you use the MCG? Like, why don't you go to the MCG? I said, hey, man, thanks for your email.
Build it and they will come.
Yeah, build it and they will come was the words. I said, hey, man, hey, man, really appreciate the note. If you're interested in working with us, we'd love to. It's going to cost about this much. Then we got to cover this and then we got to do that. But let us know if you're keen. He was like, oh, no, man, no disrespect. Like, I really, it's just like, that's the shit we need to stop. Like, stop shooting down and assuming the worst. Like, assuming that we went to Kudos Arena because we didn't realize there was a big stadium next door. No, it was calculated. We went there because it was the right size. It had a roof. It would protect us from the weather, and so therefore mainstream people would come because they're not worried about the weather. It was a safety net.
Amazing atmosphere, all the things like we experienced in Bercy again. It brought tight racing.
Not a big stadium. It's been there for 30 years.
It was virtually like the same size.
Yeah.
But it also Melbourne. You're not like, in comparison to Sydney, like literally you fucking, like Chad used to call it the fishbowl. You were sitting right above the fucking track. Like, that was pretty unique. It's not going to be the same as that in Melbourne, obviously. But like, I think people will realise maybe Sydney was like, fuck yeah, Melbourne is sick, but that was pretty cool in Sydney. We probably didn't really give it the fucking, the credit that it deserved. Like,
dude, I've been to every Supercross, every single stadium that is on the thing, and it's like, there's no, like, I didn't leave Aus-X Open last year being like, not as good as it. It's like, it's fucking sick, and it's like, you have to take it for like exactly like what it is. Because you're right. Like, Vegas is massive open air stadium. That track is huge, but it's like, I didn't feel the same like pulsing of energy that you feel, like, because you are sitting on. So it's like, you give a little, you take a little. It's like, you've got to take it for what it is and really appreciate. And like, the tunnel thing's super fucking cool. Like, the fact that you have, sand that goes into that and into the whoops. It's like, if you're a hardcore fan, you can appreciate how technical it is to like come out of that sand in like a slight right hand bend and then go into like a greasy whoop section. So it's like, there's so much stuff that you can take out of it. Like, it's very easy to just go, oh, fucking, this track's fucking tiny, bro.
Yeah.
It's like, it's easy to be that guy, but then it's like, it's also sick as fuck to see how good some dude can be in such like a tricky section. Or
and it was a process. Like, we had to go there because the sport wasn't ready to go to Marvel Stadium, and it's taken us now on our 5th year to go, we're ready to do this because the runs are on the board. Yeah, the runs are more on the board. We built a brand because there's $750,000 in extra cost in Marvel Stadium, not just cost, extra cost. Like, it's that we never had to pay for before. We couldn't have done that. Like, we would have been all over year one if we tried to do that straight away. So we've had to build up over time to get to that point, and it's the same with the championship in general. Like, it's a building process over time to build the audience and have something sustainable growth, because we've seen like promoters over the years. We've seen how many amazing promoters just go broke because they did so many. I remember Super X, they did an incredible job, and they did 7 or 8 Supercross races week after week. At high quality, rugby stadiums, etc., and they all ate each other alive because they didn't have any interstate visitation, and the supply exceeded the demand, and that's what we've been trying to manage, and to go. We couldn't just go Marvel Stadium year one. We've had to build the demand over time and build the audience and get people knowing what Supercross is, get them keen, get them excited about it, and now we're ready to take that.
And Victorian government, man, they got MotoGP, they got F1, they got Spring Carnival, they got everything. Tennis. Like, it took a long time to convince them to give us like the backing and the support and the funding to help us do this event. Do you know what I mean? Like it took a long time for them to go, hey, this is a unique international event and we fucking love it. Let's put that in Melbourne too, amongst our thousands of events that we have. And MCG selling out, on average over 50,000 people to AFL games. Like, do they really need Supercross? It takes a lot to get that government support, and without it, it can't happen.
Yeah, it really has had to build up over that time, and that journey is not something people realise. It's very easy to say, why don't you do this? Why don't you do that? It's just like, mate, if you want to come and put your house on the line, like, be my guest, you know what I mean, and then give it a crack at MCG and see how it goes. But for us, we've sort of been so, I guess, calculated, and whilst there's obviously big risk, like, we've managed that over time, and we wouldn't have come to Melbourne without support of Vic government, and we needed that. And it's the same with Sydney. We wouldn't have started in the first place without it. So and the same with Auckland, without Auckland Tourism Events Economic Development. Like, without that support, we wouldn't be there. So
100%.
It's a big part of the process, and a big link in the chain to have that government support to allow the events to be at the size and scale that we're trying to do.
It's crazy when you said before, they think it's like crusty demons. So when we were in the States with JDR, so that year, man, going to sponsorship meetings and fucking just trying everything. And you know what we got? Oh, Brian Deegan.
Yeah.
Fucking swear to God, bro. That sentence come out of everybody's mouth. Oh, Brian Deegan. Fucking no.
Mate, we had a MD of a corporate partner the other week say to us, how are you going to do your event in Melbourne when the Crusty Demons are here? As an example. Do you know what I mean? Because that's all those, the older sort of managing director level of corporates. They don't know Nitro Circus even. They just call everything Crusty Demons. They don't, you know what I mean? It's the reality.
Crazy,
it's hard.
Yeah. And
even Supercross, that's a big education. No one knows what fucking Supercross is if they're not hardcore,
Yeah.
So even just us saying world champions of Supercross on our marketing, people are like, what's Supercross? They don't necessarily get it. It's a pretty big education process.
Yeah, and that's what we're trying to do, and that's what the investment in content is.
Yeah,
it's trying to show people, trying to tell the stories. But the TV broadcast, I mean, we've spent I don't know, hundreds of thousands, almost $1 million on TV broadcast over the years that we don't get paid for. That's straight out of the bottom line to try and show the world about the events.
So when you put it on Fox, you would pay to do that.
Yeah, we've spent over $1 million on TV production now over the 5 years.
And that's just buying the spots as well as paying for production?
Yeah, paying for the production, and then no one's paying us to put broadcast. It's not like the supercars, getting $40 million a year to broadcast. That's not going to happen. You're working your ass off. We're constantly working with, Fox Sports have been amazing supporter the whole time, and even a potential free-to-air partner at the moment. I mean, because they're just we could put MASH, a rerun of MASH, and it'll rate better than Supercross.
100%.
And that's just
brings a tear to your eyes, because I hate MASH.
They're we don't care you spent $200,000+ on that TV. We literally could just buy a rerun of MASH for $1,500, put it on, and it'll rate better than your broadcast. And that's how they talk to you.
Yeah,
and that's crying. The reality. And you're fuck, can we take you out to dinner tomorrow night? Fuck, this is going to be a long grind.
It's been a long process, but that's where, I mean, without that government support, you can't create that broadcast and the sponsorship that we have. And Tony
Cochran, endorsing it. He's the visionary to go, Supercars, he bought it for $65,000, and it was just maybe one race at Bathurst, it was touring cars, it was a bit of a mess. He bought it for $65,000, and he's taken it to over all of those years to be then selling events at 200,000 plus people, 15-round championship live on Channel 7 all around the country, racing in Shanghai and fucking Bahrain and all the things that he did, so a guy like that walks into the room and speaks to the TV execs, and even they're going, Tony, it's Supercross, mate. They tell him the MASH story, he is it, but he's the one going, I believe in this, I believed in that, and you need someone like that to do that.
You've got to have those runs on the board,
awesome.
which I think he combines that with our passion, and they see it in our eyes when we're talking about it, because we've been talking today, and you're the exact same. You believe in it so much that you can't fake it, and when that resonates from people when you're talking to these people and they see how much we truly believe in this. you know, they get on board with the journey too. But it is a long process. We've got to invite them to come out. You got to show them. Like we had the Visit Victoria Visit Victoria guys at the Sydney event 2 years ago, you know, to try and show them this is what
Marvel
it's about
as well.
And the guys from Marvel Stadium, just to show them this is what it's about. You know, like we're constantly trying to invite people and show them and go, this is Supercross and this is how cool it is. And they're always leaving, never not leaving, thinking that was fucking cool. But the more we've all got to do that. You know, we need you to bring 20 of your mates and say, come along, man. Even if you're not into it, we need every rider to be going, telling all their friends and family, come along, come and watch me. Like not just our events, but all of the events. Do you know what I mean? Like buy tickets, come check it out. And we can all promote like that and that's what builds momentum. You know, we've all got to do it. It's not just on us to sell tickets. Like every rider, these riders have 15, 20,000 followers and more. Obviously, just Aussies I'm talking about. They can influence 15, 20,000 people to come to events alone.
For sure.
Yeah, and it's not just taking them there; it's getting them convinced to purchase and spend their own money on something they're not sure they want to go to. You know, and that's the other big. That takes a lot of time, you know, because you're not. Oh yeah, I'll go. Have you got a free ticket, bro?
Yeah,
No, it's going to cost you $60. Oh fuck that. You know, like that's what we've got to work on too and build that up, and that's why we need celebrity races and different appeals for people to come along, or amazing, you know, we're working so hard on having incredible entertainment and options for kids and families. So even if they came and they watched an hour of the show, they had such a sick afternoon and the kids loved it so much, just like they love Monster Jam or something like that, you know, that they'll come back, you know, and the dad goes, man, that was pretty sweet. That was a good afternoon at Marvel Stadium. I left at, 7:30 maybe because the kid was tired, but he'll come back because it was a amazing show and he enjoyed it as well. You know, there's like Monster Jam, there's that many dads that go to that just go, this is boring as fuck, you know, but the kid drags me every year, you know, whereas this event Snoopy can be it can be the attraction for the kid, and the kid has a fat time, but the dad actually goes, fuck yeah, has a couple of beers and enjoys it. That's the ultimate, you know. For the all ages appeal. That's really what the goal is, because if you've got all those peripheral things that kids and wives and girlfriends will enjoy, then keep them happy, because then you know the hardcore fan's always going to love it. Do you know what I mean? Because they're into it like we are. But you've got to get those others to love it so much, regardless, that they'll tell everyone, you know, you got to come and check this out. It was cool. And like I hear from people this year that I never would have thought would come to events, and I've met people that have come to our events that I never would have thought would go and bought a ticket. You know what I mean? Like mates from school, or not even mates from school, or chicks that, you know, I went to school with that I don't really know that well, but they came, you know, and I've got friends from Perth that are coming or whatever that have never been to a Supercross before, but they've just heard that this is going to be sick and so will come, you know, like that's what we got to keep. And that word of mouth, you can't just create that, like, you know, social media, you can do so much, you can put sick content on and everything like that, but that genuine sort of word of mouth, both the American industry and you know, our riders sort of endorsing us like they are over there, is making such a big difference. But then it's like, you know, the Rockstar Energies and the Monster Energies of the world sort of saying that over in America and starting to believe in the events over here. So, you know, like we need all those energy drinks and all the major brands associated with the teams, all the manufacturers going, you know what, let's go out there, or let's build it into the contract that they race over there, or let's bonus the riders if they win the Oceania Championship and things like that, you know, like that's all starting to happen, you know, and then with your example of the riders from and competitors from other sports just going, fuck, that sounds pretty good, you know. Like that's what we're obviously working hard on.
Are you doing the Supercross live thing on TV this year?
No, it'll be online,
so it's online
then
still.
We'll potentially, like, we'll probably just do shorter segments and make it online, so make it free for everyone. And then we might do longer form, you know, early next year when we have downtime, you know, give it to Fox or give it to, you know, a free-to-air broadcast to try and just replay it somewhere and give it out. But we'd like to just get it online, get it in short, you know, form content that it's not limited by time or anything, and just get it out there as soon as we possibly can turn it around. So there's, you know, hopefully, you know, 5, 10, 15, you know, little segments and episodes, as opposed to just trying to do 2 or 3 longer form episodes, which we have in the past, and that just takes too much time.
And we provide content to like a RPM, for example, and other news outlets. We provide them content for broadcast to be like, here's this package piece, you know, and if it's of interest to them, which it will be, then that's how we'll get the TV time, you know, to try and get it in the short sort of bite-sized pieces that get people watching.
Yeah, just like the news cuts sort of stuff.
Yeah, we'll put it on KO. We put out last year's broadcast on KOs, for example. So things like that.
How are they to work with? They seem
Fox
like
and KO. I mean, they're great supporters of us, both AME and Supercars Life and our broadcasts have been with us since 2016. You know, I think overall they support sport more than anyone. You know, that's their foundations, right?
Yeah,
KO is all about that too. But you know, it's an interesting landscape for them. You know, they're not going to pay rights for it, but they help us with marketing and work with us on giving us some free promotion and advertising and stuff, which is awesome, you know. But I think with Fox as well as now KO, you're getting more eyeballs.
Yeah,
so the appeal on there is better now, you know, and you can watch the race the next day. I think that's the best thing about KO is if you missed it, or if it's American sport or Americans, you know, watching over here or whatever, now we can do on demand and catch up is a big deal for sport too. Most people watch it live, but some will catch up if they missed it or they want to watch it in their car as opposed to on TV or whatever, you know what I mean?
Yeah, that whole landscape, as you know, has
insane,
changed, which is why podcasts are great, because great content, I'll pick when I watch it or listen to it, you know what I mean? Like, and that's exactly what this is all about, is just trying to keep putting it out there, and people can watch it when they want, you know?
Yeah.
Like we've got, you know, guys that work for us that don't even have a TV. They don't own one.
We're the same, We've just got Apple TV up there, and we got a couple of like subscriptions for like Netflix and all that shit, and that's it.
Yeah. So we've just got which is another opportunity for us, not a threat.
Exactly.
It's an opportunity for us, because this sport speaks to people, you know, it's perfect for phones and iPads and, you know, and online. So that's where our opportunities compared to traditional sports, which have such an aging demo. Like, our strength in Supercross is it's one of the youngest demos in sport. We're younger and wealthier than like a Supercars fan, for example, in all our research. And it's because and the way that they absorb the content is online and digital, and that's compared to other sports where it's much older demos. You know, they've got the 50-year-old dialed because they're the ones that still watch the TV. But brands need to get to younger people, and that's where the struggle is, which is where this sport is strong. So for us as teams, riders, events, you know, podcasts, everything, it's like we can get to your audience, the audience that no one else, in a way that no one else can, and that's what we've got to focus on. Yeah,
it's like comparing to Test cricket, you know. They get amazing TV audience, but they're all 50 years plus. We have barely any fans virtually past 55 years of age, but we have 73% between 18 and 44 years of age, you know, which Test cricket doesn't, you know. Who's, you know, if you see Test cricket, it's because it's on the pub or it's in the background and you just check the score or whatever.
and you're asleep.
You know what I mean? They're not getting the digital reach and the audience and engagement like we are, but we're not going to get the TV audience like they do. But let's not shy away from that, because it's not just about TV audience any fucking more, you know?
That's right.
Oh, your mic bloody went out again. Fucking thing. Must just be this deal here.
Better? No.
What the hell, man?
Maybe just check that one on the floor.
Is that boring, you guys?
Yeah, we're done with Bailey.
It's like,
That, you good? You're on?
Yeah.
You're on?
Yeah.
This isn't working.
Was for a second just then.
Oh, there you go.
Oh, yeah.
We're back.
Yeah, it must be that little deal there. Fucking dodgy gypsy tail shit. We had some talking points that we wanted to cover. I think have we pretty much hit them all?
Yeah, I think so.
I just want to double check, because I'm very appreciative of you guys' time.
No, yes, good. We could talk shit all day, let's be honest.
Yeah, I hope it hasn't been too long.
No. Did you guys have a time that you had to be out of here?
Nah, like if we just go from, what time is it now?
1:30.
Yeah, if we just go from here to that Castrol meeting.
Which is at what time?
2:30.
Oh, we probably get like another half hour of stuff here.
Yeah.
I mean, I think we've covered heaps of shit. It's just so interesting to, like, I hope this puts into perspective for people, like, just how big a deal it is. Like, and I mean, that's why I think New Zealand was one of the coolest nights I've had, is because, like, it was so evident seeing how much was on the line for you guys. Like, if that event got rained out, you were fucked. Like, big time fucked. And it's like, to put your balls on the line, like, obviously let's not like beat around the bush and just like, not like you're not going to make money. It's like, if the event works, you make heaps of money. If the event doesn't, you're fucked.
Yeah.
And it's like, it's sketchy to do that, and like, that's business and that's cool. But I think that it's just not that cut and dry with you guys. There is like a massive level of passion, and it's like, to take on something so big that has like not worked in Australia for so long. Yeah. You know, it's like you guys put so much on the line to like make this stuff happen.
Thanks, Jason. Yeah, I think the other thing, you know, which probably hasn't been spoken about much, is that Aus-X Open alone, if that's all we did, we wouldn't survive either. So it's not just making money off that event, if you know what I mean. Like, AME, our agency, is predominantly propping up all of our time and our staff. And the ability to do all the commercials, all the content, all the social media, and everything that we do for the event that makes it sell tickets is because we've got like the agency and all the other clients funding the guys' wages to do that, you know. So it's a really big collaboration. And New Zealand last year was a classic example. As soon as it rained, not only was obviously, you know, we were absolutely shitting ourselves, as you say, because it could just be all over. And it's not just that year. It means you're never coming back. No one's going to hold an event. We're not going to hold an event there, and no Kiwi's going to go to an event after they've just watched a complete rain out.
Supercross with no bikes getting off the ground.
Cancelled, you know, total money. We were always fearful of that. And still, that's had a bit of an impact in that market, you know, because they know of that experience, which was a real shame, because the event over there could be incredible if it's dry, which we really hopefully believe it will be this year. But I forgot what I was going to say there. Maybe you chime in.
I was going to say, I think that you know, the people probably, well, they definitely don't realise, and you don't expect to. It's not that no one else's job but ours to know the numbers, or to know how risky it is, or to know all those things. And we are, you know, we're not cowboys. Like, we certainly weigh it up, and we're certainly cautious, and we certainly do everything in our power to minimise the risk. And, you know, like, but, you know, sponsorship is one of our strengths, and as is the content, which is linked back to the sponsorship. And without that, we're absolutely done. Like, you can't do it without the support of the sponsors, like yourself. That's just a fact. Like, it's a 100% fact that you know, people love to count 20,000 people and then go, oh, they're about $100 each. That's $2 million. Those guys made $2 million tonight. It's like, yeah, dick. Fucking nothing cost anything. Like, we ran this whole thing for free. It cost 2.2. You know what I mean? Like, or more. And people just do those sums. And it's like anything, you know, you just you can't expect people to know or get that. But I think what you want people to have is more the positive outlook, and understand the investment that goes in, the risk that goes in. I mean, when it rained in New Zealand, and it did, and the event luckily was awesome. I mean, not luckily, but it was awesome. Our team worked their fucking ass off to dry the track and make it like it was. But that was $100,000 worth of rain. You know, that cost an extra $100,000 that we didn't know was going to happen, you know. So that's the fact, and that's the way it goes. It could have been a lot worse. So we're not devastated about it, because it could have been, like you said, a shitload worse. Luckily, the weather did stop, because that's luck. But our crew had covered the track where they could, drained the water where they could. They worked their absolute asses off to make it what it was. But that's the way it can swing, and that's why events is not for everyone. You know, like it is risky business, and it like, so much is out of your control at times as well, and things can happen. So, you know, like, I guess you just want people to maybe jump off the hate bandwagon a little bit at times, because that's when it hurts you, when you're like deep in it and you're taking huge risks and you're pouring every dollar you've got back into the sport, or into content, or, you know, into the things that we're trying to build the pie. Then, you know, when people are just like firing things at you, sometimes you're like, dude, like, really? Like, you're really going to attack us about this or attack us about that? And I remember year one when James Stewart was pulled out, and it was the most heartbreaking thing of all time. And we were getting like abused and like called rip-off merchants and all this stuff. And I was like, no one is more devastated than what we are.
We want this bad.
We are devastated. Like, this is our livelihood. We've poured everything into this, you know, and he's just decided he's not coming now. How do you think we feel? But instead, due to social media and this, you know, everyone can be a victim of it at times. People just bash you, and you're just like, mate, do you really think that we're You know, how do you think we feel about it? You know,
we've had a lot of like bad luck really when you think with those events. So I don't think there's been a year for Aus-X Open where there's been riders that haven't pulled out due to injury or other reasons. You know, I mean, and fortunately for us, like the way they embraced Cooper Webb that year as a replacement, you know, and really got behind him and then got behind Chad, it was lucky that, you know, the fans really sort of were aware and understanding in that sense. You know, like there is obviously those haters, but the majority get it. Majority get their injuries, and when that stuff happened with RB last year, like people understand. And they still show up and they still have amazing time. And you know, like I think that's the biggest thing is the understanding the fans have. We would like them to know that obviously going to the events is what's making the events what they are. Do you know what I mean? And we will continue to keep investing back in them and keep investing in the best riders coming out. But their dollar is helping do that, if you know what I mean.
Yeah, and that we're the same as them. Like we're fans, like big time. We didn't. If we
41, yo.
If we didn't have the passion, we wouldn't be doing it because there's way easier and less hard work and way safer ways to make a dollar. And it's like anything in working in this industry, there is easier ways to make money. As in easier, but if you love something, then it's not like work. You know?
Yeah, I was going to say, like, you just don't, you know, because the hours you guys put into it, it's like you've got to be super passionate.
It doesn't add up. If you did it that way and you worked it out on hours and an hourly rate, then you'd probably, you know.
And same goes for all the guys that work at AME. Like, they work their asses off. And their content, you know, the quality of the content is all because of their hard work and their passion for it. You know, they want Supercross content to be better than anything we produce, which is fair enough because they feel as passionate about Supercross as we do. And I think that shows in the content that comes out that they're producing all the time, which is incredible. And you know, broader than just the content guys, but all the social media and all the guys that work for us in operations as well. You know, the quality and professionalism of the events, we owe it to all the guys that work with us that bust their ass and care about it as much as we do.
Yeah, totally. You know, the people have been in some pretty challenging situations over the years, you know, working hard and girls, guys, everything, like really in the trenches, you know, and sometimes like those are the times that you form such great bonds with people because they gather around and they help and like, you know, like they want it as much as what we do. And I think that's the thing is that everyone that is involved loves it as much as the fans do. We're all fans first and foremost. Like we all love the sport or else you wouldn't be doing it.
Yeah.
So that's the thing. I think people, you know, we're not promoters that come in to sort of make bulk cash and get out of here and just like drain the sport for everything it's worth and go. Like we're here because we love it. We want to see it grow. We have so much respect for the athletes because we know how hard they work and how hard it is. And we want to see the whole thing grow and flourish and really just for it to get the attention that it deserves because as you know, like these guys are amazing, the sport's amazing. We feel like they deserve to get more than what they currently do.
And we want to see them succeed in the World Championship as well, you know, where no one's following them any closer or harder than we are, you know, and seeing Hunter Lawrence do well, I mean seeing Chad, you know, do as well as he is and seeing the other Aussie guys like Dean Ferris do well in the motocross, you know, we're as supportive as anyone, you know, to see them do well. And the more we continue to build these events and build legitimacy of Supercross and build, you know, test tracks and practice tracks and continue building the sport, the more growth for Australian riders to go over and do well in the World Championship. And that's obviously, you know, your 10-year vision. That's the end goal that we're seeing as this international championship that people want to do legitimately, you know, as a prelude to the World Championship. And we're totally okay with that. That's awesome for Australia, New Zealand, and potentially other, you know, cities or countries in the future perhaps.
And look at what Supercars as a domestic series, how big it is, you know, and that was because of what Tony created. Like, you can build the characters and build interest and build excitement. Bathurst obviously being the biggest one. We believe that like the sport can grow a lot in this country and it has a long way to go, and that the opportunity's there because of those things we spoke about. It is cooler than Supercars. I think it's a better entertainment spectacle. So if we can convince those fans to come on over and check it out and have the same passion like they do that are wearing the same, you know, Holden Racing Team shirt that they got 10 years ago.
Yeah,
then
and the event
awesome.
Experience, in our opinion, is better because of what we've talked about. But, you know, you can see it all there. You can see it live. You can still meet the athletes as well. You know, every ticket holder can get an autograph signing. You know, it's what we're working on is just as much access as possible to the guys. You know, like from effectively 12 o'clock during the day on Saturday, you know, if you really want to go at 12 o'clock, you've got 10 hours of just fucking Supercross.
Go nuts.
Yeah, just frothing.
And we'll do everything we can possibly to have you fed, you know, have as many beers as you want, but also keep you entertained for that whole time. That's our ultimate goal. But also, some people might rock up 5 to 6 and have 4 hours, or some families might go 4 till 7:30. We're okay with that too.
Yeah.
So we want to have a bit of appeal broadly for everyone that might have, you know, their kids, you know, footy or whatever during the day, and then they're coming to the event at night or whatever, you know.
There's no big compliment, and hopefully that's where we have sold like a lot of merchandise at our events before, but there's no greater compliment than when you go somewhere not connected and then you see someone wearing it. You know, that's sick, because it means someone, like, I think the biggest compliment you can ever have if someone was to wear your brand, because it's like if you wear something, it means oh, I think this is cool. And no one wears anything thinking it looks shit or that it's shit. You know what I mean? So like, it's the biggest compliment ever if someone's going to wear your brand. So that's the thing that really gives you the kick. If people come along and they buy the merchandise, they wear it, they are seen by their friends and their circles and everywhere else, you know, wearing it. People ask, what's that all about? You know, people, like, we sell a lot of team merch. Like, people buy CDR merch, they buy KTM team merch, Honda team merch at all of our events. And they're wearing it somewhere, and you know, they're being seen by other people wearing it that aren't necessarily fans.
Yeah, 100%.
And that's just, you know, just got to keep on spreading.
Spreading the love.
You know, bring in these commercial partners. I mean, Boost Mobile, a classic example, you know, that have been associated with our event for years now, but they're trying to take, you know, Chad Reed and Supercross and broaden the appeal, and they're targeting a young audience like we are, and we've got amazing commercial partners that are really getting behind us because they can attract these younger audiences, and our audience has more like sponsor recall than most sports in the country would have. You know, they're very aware of the brands, and they're very supportive and passionate about who's involved, because they understand they're supporting this event and they're making it happen just as much as the person buying the ticket, you know. So it's amazing that we've got, you know, like the amazing realm of sponsors that we have, and led obviously by Monster Energy, have backed us, you know, and been a naming partner that they're making it happen just as much as anyone. And
that it's a good opportunity, and our sport is a great opportunity, and why the education thing is so important is because they're young and savvy and a lot smarter than what people realise. Our fans, they're super savvy. They're switched on and smart, and like we said, even in our research, they're wealthier than some Supercars fans. So our fans and Supercross fans aren't bogans, and that's what we've got to change, that perception, you know. There's bogans everywhere in some form, you know, or whatever, but our fans in general are very savvy. They're switched on, which means we can't bullshit to them. They're all over it. Like, we have to be genuine.
I totally agree. Like, I see that with the podcast stuff all the time. Like, all the messages I get's like fucking architects, and you know what I mean? Like, all these people, and even with like the advertising stuff that we do with this, it's like, that's why I don't have many sponsors. Like, I turn down sponsors all the time because I'm like, I can't fucking tell these. Like, these people know me. Like, they listen to me a lot. Like, I can't.
Authentic.
I can't tell them something.
The Nobby guys funded you to go to New Zealand, and it was like authentic reasoning from them too, you know. And it was a huge success, you know, both Australia and New Zealand, and now they're obviously back, and they're great partners of ours too. But you want it for the right reasons.
For sure, dude.
Which, all of our brands are strong partners. And the same with you, in Boost and Nobby. Like, you want brands that fit your brand, and they're going to convey the same message, and that's the other thing that helps us all, you know, legitimize what we're doing. Because if you just had shithouse brands that you're just trying to do, you know, a cash grab here or there, or desperate to get whatever, it lowers the value of everything you're doing. And
it's right. Like, I've definitely gone through the process of like having to turn down money, because I'm like, I know that people that watch this show religiously, like, people are so switched on, dude. Like, the messages that I get of like, oh, when you said this, I'm like, that was fucking 2 hours and 45 minutes deep into like just a shit talk. And it's like, people know, like, people listen, they know what's going on. Or like, I'll get a message about something that's like vaguely related to something that was said like weeks ago. It's like, you just can't fucking like, and I tell people, like, I tell advertisers, like, our generation, like our age, we've been marketed to our entire lives. Like, our parents, it's like they were sort of marketed to, in a way, like the Marlboro Man. Like, that was Stone Age marketing. It's like the marketing now that we have, that we've experienced through our life is fucking hectic.
And the kids now, like the kids are more aware of it than even anyone else. You know, they're all over. They're used to closing the sponsor before they watch the kids' YouTube channel. Exactly, you know what I mean? Dude. Like it's fucking crazy. Instagram, I think at the moment it's like 25% of what you see, every fourth post is a fucking ad or a sponsored post. It's like, that's a lot of fucking advertising. That's 25% of just what you're looking at on your phone is ads.
And like there's people that are looking at that shit for like 4 hours a day.
We went to Instagram at the start, remember, because it was like, oh, for fuck advertising on Facebook, we'll go to Instagram. It's just all photos and images. It's now more advertising, I think, than anything.
Yeah. And people are, and kids and younger audience, not just kids, hate being advertised to. So you have to be authentic. The moment you're trying to sell a millennial or younger something, they're like, fuck you, don't sell me anything. Like they hate the used car salesman approach that will come in and go, hey man, you look like you need a car, I'm here to help you. They're like, fuck off, dude. Like I know what I want. I don't need you telling me what. I don't need you telling me what I'm gonna do, you know, and we have to treat them that way. They're smart. You can't just, you know, falsely just make up some shit and think you'll suck them into buying something from you, because that's just not the way the world works now.
Nah, it's so fucking true. Well, hey, I'll let you guys get to this meeting. I'm really, really glad that we made this happen. I'm your biggest fan.
Thanks, mate.
And I love the events. I'll be there with the podcast again at Sydney this year and again at Auckland.
Melbourne, otherwise you'll miss out.
You'll
be fucking quiet.
What's the date? November 30
in Melbourne.
Right, so
November 16 in Auckland.
Yeah, sweet. So I'll be at both of those in Melbourne. Fucking Sydney. So thanks very much for coming on. I hope people I know you guys aren't after people be like, oh fuck, those guys work so hard. No. I know that's not what you're chasing, but I personally think it's cool to like give people some perspective, and it's like $500,000 just to like pay dudes to come here. It's like,
that's right.
You know, so it's like I want to give people that perspective, because I know from talking to you guys that how much goes into it, but I just think to give the average listener or the person that is going to attend the your races, it's like I wanted to know what a fucking spectacle it really is just to make something like this happen. And it's coming from a couple of young dudes and a guy that still has his fucking race number and his Instagram handle. You know what I mean? Like
I need to do something cool with my life so I can put that into the Instagram handle.
But it's like, that's like what it is. You know what I mean?
It's there's an Adam Bailey without a number that somewhere
someone's
on Instagram
taken it. Whoever that dude is
going
to give me the handle back.
Number 8.
You've got yours.
Yeah, his go-kart number. Hey, we're still living in the past, mate. We still love it too. We're still races deep down.
I never got a cool number, so that's why I never did. I was fucking too slow to get a good number.
I don't even think I think someone got 82, so I had to run with 8, which I ran with like 1 year. So.
That's so fucking fun.
Well, that's the other thing too, is that hopefully after this, when people are at Marvel Stadium and they see the supports in the car park, they know what went into it, and maybe someone will help us water the grass the week after or something, because we're trying to recover it as quickly as possible.
And I think also, huge thanks to everyone that travels so fucking far.
Dude,
they probably don't realize it themselves, but they're spending a lot of money on accommodation and taxis and flights and everything that we don't obviously get any revenue from, but just to show up and be there, which is incredible.
The passion, we love that passion.
Without those traveling, over 30% coming from outside of the state, the government wouldn't get behind it either. So it all comes back around. It's pretty phenomenal.
Yeah. By them traveling, they literally are making the event possible, because without the travel, without the interstate visitors, there's no government support. Without the government support, it's not possible to do it at that level. So they are literally making the biggest difference. Those people that are traveling to do that.
Well, without that government money, you wouldn't have the international riders, right? And you like everything else, So.
Oh, sweet, boys. Well, I'm excited for Melbourne, November 30, and then Auckland on November 16. So people can get tickets. They've all been on sale. So
Ticketmaster, for both of them.
Yeah.
And then I am excited to see you guys there, and anyone else that's listening, I'll be keen to see everyone there.
Thanks, Jace.
Appreciate it. Thank you.
No dramas, boys.
Legend.
Cheers, mate.
Sweet, guys. We fucking did it.